8-6, an improving move. B4 just clamps down on the position. No more A5, no more C5. And I think here, your notes, your files of 2016 would probably have a very different evaluation that white is doing great once you get this bind in. So a very importantly, crucially timed A5 by Fabi. And very often in these structures, black doesn't stop there, right? To get rid of the problem on the dark squares, to get rid of that problem of the backward C7 pawn, we might even see a pawn sacrifice by Fabi. He's just giving the pawn back for a better position of pieces to open up the C line, exactly how you're pointing out. C5 at the right moment, defending that A5 pawn in case rook A1 does happen as well. And if you were to take that pawn, the queen lines up on C7. The rook from F8 will slide over to C8. Yes, we could do it like that. Rook Fc8, and suddenly you feel like there's a lot of play. Also in the Catalan, with the black pieces having played these positions, another idea to always have on your radar is the rerouting of the knight from D7 to B8 back to C6. Nice. Just some plans in the air.
Okay, then.
You play this with black, I take it?
Yes, I haven't played the Catalan with white, but with the black pieces a couple of times, and it's always, I actually quite like facing the Catalan. I think it's really, despite having a very solid positional sort of an approach to it, it feels that black has so many small possibilities and ways to sort of counter it that you can really try for more even with black.
Yeah, I tried for so long to play the Catalan with white, and then I just got confused, all these move orders, all these different ideas, like you say. So I started playing like one knight F3 first, G3, and only going to the Catalan if they commit to like specific systems. But yeah, Magnus, of course, normally knows what's going on. And here, I'm going to say his first real big think of the game. We see on the top left of our screens, Magnus has been thinking for 7.5 minutes. But he's still 15 minutes up on the clock. So key position.
And by the way, Magnus did visit the confessional early on, and we will be showing it. It's just being edited right now. So, of course, I would love to hear what Magnus Carlsen is thinking about this position and what chances he has, you know. Oh, hang on a second, I've got the word. It's now available to hear, so let's listen.
I'm really interested to see what Fabi has up his sleeve here, since what he wants to kind of try and simplify everything. The way that he plays, I think, I don't, like, since this is not like the biggest problem generally that white has in this line, this is not something that I, off the top of my head, like know a lot about, more than that it's kind of not worse for white, and the game doesn't end here, which is kind of generally what you hope for in the opening these days. So maybe he's worked out some solution, he's thinking a little bit. That could be because he's just trying to recall something, but I would say overall it's been like a moderate success so far.
Ooh, them words, a bit fighting. A moderate success so far, and now suddenly Magnus is the one thinking because A5 has come as a surprise to him.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, there's so many options earlier for black as well. Black didn't need to play that move, bishop d6. Black could have traded bishops earlier. Black could have also given back a pawn, I think, a few moves prior to this as well. And like Magnus said, there are so many ways black can play, just as Tanya said as well, a bit earlier against the Catalan. But yeah, we'll see whether Magnus's words ring true.
We will, and we'll see whether Tanya's plans for the black pieces come to fruition. But it is certainly a critical moment there for the world number one. And looking back at our colourful board viewer, I mean, there's one game that is just screaming to me, and it's the top right. It's the one in green, and look, we have to go to Hikaru Nakamura against Arjun Erigaisi. Hikaru trailing by 1 point to Fabiano, so he wants to go all in. Arjun has had a kind of topsy-turvy event. Some highlights, some lowlights, but Hikaru, G4, H4 on the board, queenside card
Position I have ever seen in my life, David.
That's not the point. C3 Sicilian is rich, full of possibility, always surprises you, that's the key. But yeah, let's break down the last few moves, because we last saw Hikaru castle queenside, and we already said it's quite fiery. The main problem for black is where to put the king. And right now, of course, you can't castle to the king side because you will drop this pawn, the h7 pawn. White will land a check and then run away with the bishop. having pocketed a pawn there. And for black, if you want to prepare castling, a move like h6 comes with serious kind of risk because of actually what Hikaru's just done in the game. Often you play a move like g4. If black ever castles, the h6 pawn will act as a hook. White will break open the king side by playing a move like g5 next, and the black king feeling the heat. Likewise, you can't play the move g6, or you can, but you might regret it later because of the move pawn to h4 and harry the h-pawn, marching up the board. Rogue arrow there. But harry the h-pawn, trying to trade pawns, trying to open the h-file. This is really risky for black as well. Note that h5 will always be met by a piece sacrifice, as we showed a bit earlier in the day. Bishop takes pawn and a check, and this looks terminal for the black king. So Arjun keeps his options open by playing the bishop to d7. And although he has the bishop pair, it's actually this light squared bishop that is the problem piece, just as it is in a lot of openings. And okay, Hikaru decides to kickstart his attack. He gets a head start here with g4. The black rook moves, castling the other way for black, I should mention as well. Possible, but it does feel like the king's a bit open here. The white bishop has some inroads in, and the white queen has easy access, maybe the knight coming this direction as well. So, okay, Arjun tries to seek some counterplay, and this is the game position after pawn to h4. I don't really see where the black king's going. White's next moves are like autopilot, push the pawns and attack.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. King safety is super important. It just reminds me of the time that I was writing my very first book back in 2007, I want to say. It was a long time ago. But I remember I had like these 6 principles, and one of them was king safety. And then when it came to writing about king safety, I thought, well, you should protect your king. And then I was going to leave it at just that. And then I suddenly thought about it and I thought, no, you can expand on this very important topic a little bit more. And it's all to do with actually having to justify to your king at all times that it's safe.
It's one of the most crucial factors in chess that define evaluation, I think, in every single stage of the game, right? Whether it's opening, how much of a success it's been, so much depends on whether you've castled successfully, connected your pieces. Middle game, who's better? The initiative against the king. Endgames, is king the piece? Is it the active piece coming in? So I think king safety is really one of the key points that we continue learning about in chess and plays a big, big role. I think in this game it's going to play a huge role as well. Arjun moving that rook to b8. There's not going to be any castle on the queen side, and I don't know how good you're feeling about chances of getting that king to the king side, to the right side of the board. Great emoji there, David. You know, the king not really sure where it wants to go. I just want to highlight, like, you can't even go short castle with h7 hanging. If you were to push that h-pawn, trying to get the short castle in, white is beautifully poised to either strike with g5 or create more weaknesses on the king side. If you play g6, you're anyways running into an h5 break. If Arjun's king stays at the center of the board, he's essentially playing without a rook on h8, and that's sort of a big handicap to have in this position. So what are the dynamics that Arjun's trying to rely on? You know, because you mentioned the problem of the bishop, you need to activate that sooner or later. How do you get that going?
Well, my vibe, and I don't know whether it's the correct vibe, but I would be going first up, improve the minor pieces. Is the bishop on d7? It's not doing very well. I think the rook on h8, I'm going to give it up for a lost cause for the time being.
Give up on your kids like that when you're playing, you know, Ivanka.
Well, it's disappointed me so far. It might improve later on. But what I'm going to say is, like, I was thinking moves like e5, go bishop to e6, and then go queen to a5, like trouble the white king a little bit. Oh, the evaluation bar doesn't immediately go, not a good idea. And then when you need to, you can castle and then get the rook involved. That was my thinking. Like queen a5, king b1, bishop e6, haha, checkmate. Don't you always get a rush of blood to the head when you threaten checkmate?
It is. I think we'd have to go castle and then rook c1 and then checkmate, because it would be winning after queen.
Okay, it's not checkmate, yeah. Okay.
But I do get a rush of blood if there is checkmate on the board, and there it is.
There you go.
They would be completely. I mean, I love it. I don't even know why the bar didn't like your movie 5. I think it just makes so much sense because it comes with the tempo, right? You're also hitting g4.
Right.
And you're asking questions. And the next move, you're hitting a2 and asking questions.
Yeah.
So that looks good, but that would only solve the problem of one of the kids in the position, right? The bishop. I still don't see how Arjun will ever get his king to safety.
Yeah. Unless it's like one of those Marvel movies, you know, the plot line where it all looks hopeless, it all looks lost, but then there's one last superhero that's going to ride to the rescue later. It's like you wait 40 moves and then eventually you castle. And this rook,
It's the Ant-Man, right? Wasn't it Ant-Man?
To fight back into the game.
You're not a superhero unless you have some hopeless situation somewhere along the way, along your quest, superhero journey, and then suddenly things turn around.
But it was Ant-Man that saved the day, right?
He saved the day in many occasions. Most of them have saved the day at some point.
Oh, okay.
Thor, in Infinity War.
Avengers, assemble.
Well, definitely that rook on h8 needs to get into the game at some point, but it's not looking great for it at the moment.
I have a question for you both, right? You mentioned e5, and that gives me another way to improve the bishop. You could do it from the queen side. You could go c5, bishop c6. And c5 also in some positions could threaten c4. No, the bar just shoots up and says, no, it's got to be e5.
Yeah, well, okay. It's very interesting to see Arjun Erigaisi. He's thinking as to how to come up with a plan. But we have his opponent, Hikaru, in the confessional, so let's listen to what he has to say.
Okay, thought I would come in one time today. My game is quite interesting. Arjun played this bishop d7, h7. It's a situation where either it's probably completely winning for me or it's completely losing for me, and it's kind of just not what I was in the mood to go for, especially because Arjun's time usage, he was moving very quickly, so I suspect he's still in prep. Depending on how long he thinks here, will probably go a long way towards like being a sort of tell, to use the poker analogy, in terms of what he does, because I didn't see a clear way for black to be better after bishop takes h7, but these queen a5, rook b8, and some rook h5, rook c5 type stuff. Optically it looked scary. I really don't know if it was scary in reality, but it felt kind of iffy. So I chose to avoid that and just play g4, and probably after h6, h4, we'll transpose back into some preparation. But it could be a very interesting game. Well, we'll see.
Interesting there. Hikaru saying it's a tell that Arjun has spent some little time in the beginning, and now he's spending a lot of time, and he was predicting h6, h4. h4 has appeared on the board, and David, h6, is that really a move?
Probably not a good one. I should mention that when this position first arose on the chess.com database, a lot of people were playing a very early h6 just to castle as black, but they would walk into this pawn storm. I would be more tempted as black to play the move h5 somehow. In lots of openings, including the Carlsen, Jovanka, when the opponent starts pushing the h-pawn forward, if you have to block it, you want to block it with pawn to h5, just to put this on the board. Because now either there'll be a capture, and the black rook, at least like an Avenger, will rise to the occasion, swoop over, save the day maybe, even go for the enemy king, actually something that Hikaru mentioned in a different line, or white will possibly block it up. And now it still feels super scary, but you might feel better, at least now there are fewer open lines on the king side, you might feel better later about castling king side. So we'll see. I have a feeling Arjun doesn't want to touch anything here. They do say don't touch any pawns on the side you're weaker or that you're about to get attacked on. But no easy other decisions to be made here. Not his type of position to defend Arjun Erigaisi.
Yeah, I mean, we were struggling with coordination, right? To kind of make use of the bishop pair and the rook on b8. I mean, I came up. I'm not going to give credit.
Yeah, you literally checkmated white in 4 moves in this position, and I love that plan, by the way.
All forced.
Well, it was like a very straightforward response, and I shouldn't really...
I would actually play e5 here. I mean, I think that's the first move that comes to my mind as well. Plant that bishop on e6. You're eyeing the king side, hitting that g4 pawn. Like you mentioned, queen coming in. Because you have to create your chances, right? You sit still. Hikaru's not stopping here. g5, h5, g6 coming in. Give 3 moves and your king is in a lot of trouble at the center. So Arjun actually has the next 2 to 3 moves to build something of his own on the queen side.
Yeah, agree. And just to put this on the board as well, e5, I do think it's one of the most logical moves. And likewise, c5, very logical. But maybe what he's calculating is the white bishop coming into f5, challenging the bishop. So no more bishop pair for black. That was maybe the long-term trump, the ace card up his sleeve. This forces an exchange. And now he might be calculating what happens if the queen takes, what happens if the pawn takes. A position like this, it does feel like the white's more likely you'll be able to castle with the white light squared bishop traded off. But yeah, you can't castle immediately, unfortunately. Or maybe you can, actually. I was going to say rook d7 and you get forked, but whoops.
Queen b6.
Queen b6 and not one-way traffic. So yeah, I think he needs to go for this, Arjun, even if it does look like anti-positional to trade off your bishops. You just need to get your king to safety. You need all your pieces to play, especially this rook. And even if it comes at the cost of a pawn, that's I think that's a price worth paying.
Right. And since this position is so complicated, can we check with the all-seeing oracle to find out, first up, how tricky is Arjun's position and how narrow is the path to safety?
Yeah, I've just turned on my computer. It's not the strongest depth. I'll maybe let it think for a while, but e5 top move.
Oh, okay.
Followed by h5.
Oh.
Third move, h6. Oof, scary. And just to mention c5, I think maybe the other most logical move we were contemplating, that does allow bishop takes h7, something that Hikaru Nakamura worships, and will be a pawn up in the middle game. So I think that's the one move for now we don't really consider. e5 at least counters the g4 pawn, and other moves save the h pawn.
I feel like every single game of Arjun in this tournament has been sort of a story in its own self, right? Playing very strong, coming up, being under pressure for the most part, but then finding that resourceful resilience at the end. He turns it around and gets the win. And then today, coming up against Hikaru, a position of chaos from the very start. And again, it's one of those positions where you feel that it's a game for 3 results. You know, whether he chooses e5 or he goes for h6 or the other line that you're pointing out. But I wonder, because Hikaru mentioned that when you're playing against a player and they start taking that much time in the opening, you start feeling a bit more confident about your chances that you manage to get them out of prep. And I think especially against a player like Arjun, that holds a lot of value. Seeing Arjun think can give the opponent a lot of confidence in their moves.
Yeah, definitely, because this is perfect. You've got the initiative and your opponent is thinking, burning the time, and you feel the moral sense of advantage. Well, super sharp position. We see that Arjun has to tread very carefully because bishop takes h7 is a big threat. Maybe we check up on the other games because this round so far is started off in a crazy way. There's one game we haven't really checked in on, and I'm just gonna ask you, can you see any wildness anywhere else before we head on to Ju Wenjun against Anna Muzichuk there on the bottom left?
Speaking of wildness, just really quickly, I mean, 4 boards on fire. We'll go to Wenjun and Muzichuk next. It's a big one for us standings. And then we'll also go to Gukesh and Wei Yi. But those top 2 boards, the one in the center and top right, bottom 2 boards, bottom center and bottom right, I think all 4 promise to be super exciting fights. Let's go to the world champion, as you wanted to, Yovi, because it's really a big one, but one of the slower starts.
Yeah, one of the slower starts, but I do like the fact that Ju Wenjun isn't playing a totally symmetrical, super slow game. We said slow start, but this one could heat up at least. There's some imbalance here. I don't know if we go all the way back to the start.
Let's do it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you didn't want
It's the English opening, of course. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, Tanya. Knight f3. So it started as the Reti opening and soon became a symmetrical English with c4, c5 being played. And pawn to g3. Here, black has many moves. You can put a pawn on g6. You can play pawn to e5, pawn to e6. Here, Anna Muzichuk plays a line that is well known to be super solid with black, but doesn't give so many dynamic chances. It's known to be one of those. It's like you just want to lock down the center, kind of make a draw. So d5, and after some exchanges, bishop to g2, she trades on c3. Again, you can do many things. You can put a pawn on e5. You can bring your knight back, play g6, but a trade of knights, giving white an extra central pawn. It's 2 center pawns versus 1 for black, so white with much more flexibility when to push, whether to push. First, Anna plays e5. We see some developing moves from both sides. The white rook landing on b1. And from my experience of this, pretty much only on the white side, it's all about this bishop, and it's all about the d5 square. Like, this is a hole in black's position. You can't occupy it anytime soon with the white knight, which is 4 moves away. You need to slowly relocate it, like round. So like d2, c4, e3, and d5 eventually. But black here has 1 bad piece, so that gives you hope long-term with white. Although black doesn't have too many weaknesses for now. Queen to c7, the knight retreats, starts this long journey, coming round into the d5 square. Black occupies the open line. Big threat to take this knight. Behind that knight is a pawn that bishop is staring at, so Ju Wenjun develops her queen, and bishop to d7, indirectly trying to kick this queen away. I must admit, I'm a bit biased towards white, just with experience here. I don't really see what black's plan is long-term. It's very hard to play on the king side, like with f5, because that's very weakening. Hard to play on the other side of the board, because white has this side locked down. But for now, it's all about the pieces.
Right, and with this bishop retreat, bishop to d7, it looks like black is threatening knight to d4. But once you dive deeper into the position, you understand that the queen can just drop back to d1. Everything's covered. and the knight just has to relocate itself.
Yeah, so not a huge threat. So for example, if white just makes a move,
I'm thinking knight e3.
knight e3, yep, I like that one. Coming in, if black jumps out the way, hitting the queen, hitting this pawn, white can simply retreat, and the black knight forced back. Yeah, forced back where it came actually, because this pawn also now suddenly under fire twice, and now white gets for free a hit with the knight. I don't know, what does Hannah Muzichuk have in mind then if the white knight does retreat? Big threat.
I guess you have to go b6 and... No, I don't know, no.
Maybe.
I don't really want to be going b6 actually, David.
You can. I just want to show why not maybe.
Yeah.
Hitting the queen, and if you go this way, after some exchanges, after a trade here, you have to take with the knight, otherwise your knight is hanging. And then this pawn in the corner drops.
Yeah.
I just want to show the other one, Jovanka. Queen to b8, just to keep this pawn defended. I see the bar rising. I'm pretty sure it's queen takes knight. Yes, queen sacrifice. You get one piece, you get two pieces. King has to move, it's a check. You get three pieces, and at the end you land
You get
four.
them all, really.
Yeah. Gotta catch 'em all.
One too many.
Okay, so I don't know. I just really like Ju Wenjun's position.
Very healthy. And all the ideas coming in, rook and queen beautifully placed, no big threat. Knight e3, because it's coming in with d5, I wonder if Anna would sort of just take a breather, a pause, and get her bishop out of the way, either put it to d6. I don't think you want to place it to f6, just defending the two pawns and trying to sidestep the threat of knight d5 could be something that she could be looking at. And then eventually getting the f-pawn up the board. I also find it super instructive that, you know, not always you have to defend against an opponent's threat, as you pointed out. Bishop d7 at first looks really scary, but then you understand that it's actually an idea that you don't need to counter on the spot. But that said, the one thing that I think white needs to be careful about, for example, for me, instinctively, what I wanted to play was queen to c2, just come back. And then I'm looking at, can black actually make a move like b5? And are these ideas that you really need to stop and be careful about? Because rook takes pawn suddenly runs into knight d4 or knight b4 tactics. May or may not work. The bar says it's probably not the best way to do it. All right, knight b4, more precise there. But perhaps that's the trick combined with bishop d7 that you need to watch out for, is the b pawn moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I suspect that Anna just retreated the bishop to d7 because she just wanted to stop any ideas of bishop takes c6 and being forced to double pawns.
But I love it when my opponent gives up that fianchetto light squared bishop, and I've got a light squared bishop to try to come towards the queen side. It's such a difficult evaluation to make, right? Long term, you have this terrible pawn formation, but short term, it gives you a lot of dynamics because of the bishop pair.
The bishop coming in, some nice squares. Yeah, that would have been fun, but bishop d7. This is, it's going to be all about piece play for the near future. I think this is going to be tense for a while, but I don't see it fizzling out. That's the thing. A lot of Ju Wenjun's games so far, it's been symmetrical piece trades, and it just goes down to a level-looking endgame very, very quickly. This one is kind of full tension. Still most of the pieces on the board.
Yeah. Ooh, dangerous stuff, but it's dangerous in a different way. Can we check up on the remainder of the games? Because I see that Tanya, I'm looking at the game between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. You can give yourself a pat on the back because it's exactly as you predicted.
c5 on the board.
c5 for the score, and then we have a...
You can't say c5 for the score. That's g4 for the score,
or
f4 for the score. c5 is
We're live.
high five.
Oh, we're live.
Or c5, and we go high five.
Okay, look.
You can't go c5
Like,
for the score.
literally, it just came out of my mouth. But okay, so it goes f4 for the score.
Yes.
Anything with 4 for the score.
Anything with the 4 for the score.
And what about 6? Just break down the lingo.
And we in the mix.
We're in the mix. Okay, 7.
Heaven.
8.
I hate. No.
Knight on f8.
You don't get mate.
Knight on f8, you never get mate. What was it? You say it all the time.
Knight on f8, there is no mate.
There is no
No
mate.
mate, yeah.
You await your fate. You can't be late.
Can't be late.
I heard something from the producer.
Vic,
Go again.
what did you say? Oh,
Yeah, we can't repeat
a
that.
different kind of show, guys.
Yeah, it's a hot date today with
With 8.
big games in round 9.
Do you want to jump into Magnus and Fabi? I think it's a big move that sacrifices the pawn back, and let's also point out that Wait, I said sacrifices the pawn back. Yes, it was an extra pawn for Fabi. He gives it back for strategic positional gains there. David, will you break that down for us? Because to me, it was more of a plan, an idea, but now it's been executed.
Yeah, and Fabi maybe felt he had to execute it here now before he lost the pawn back in a less favourable manner. Just to recap the last one move for each side, Magnus did play what I'm going to say is the most natural move in the position. Black's A pawn has just marched forward, but it is slightly vulnerable. So Magnus brought his rook across to attack it. The only other way to save this pawn would have been to play the move c6, but to my eyes, this looks extremely ugly. The black bishop now is just stuck for eternity. We could even see ideas, I'm not sure immediately or not, but like pawn to e5, a typical Catalan move. It looks like you're losing a square. The black knight gets a beautiful post, but so do the white knights, more importantly. And c5, an eternal outpost on the dark squares. d6, an even stronger outpost potentially. And this black bishop is just wincing. It's crying, stuck behind its own pawn. So Fabi felt he needed to. And he's going to lose a pawn back anyway. But you're a pawn up. You can give it back and try to seek some activity in the process. So c5, the square was covered 3 times. So Magnus, yeah, it looks like he's about to win the pawn back, but the question is how to capture. If you take with the knight, maybe Magnus will feel like this alleviates some of the pressure. We'll see a knight trade. And again, there's a dilemma, queen or pawn. Ideally, you want to take with the queen. He actually takes with the pawn, Magnus, first of all. But just to break this one down, we would have seen maybe the black rook come across and the white queen now. If it takes, there would have been some action, some complications. Instead, Magnus took back immediately with the pawn. And the idea of this marching forward was stopped. So Tanya predicted this exact position. And white has to do something quick before the black rook comes along and knuckles down on the c5 square.
What can white do then? This is the big question.
I mean, I'm already looking at some tactics around c6. Just simply, yes, I see the queen on c2 spin, and maybe that's why it's not ideal, because after c6, you can maybe continue with the same idea of rook c8. But I wonder if you can take, yeah, and then you just, I was thinking you could take the queen on c2 if anything was captured, but does that win on the spot?
Then there's knight d5.
Uh-huh.
And we're still live.
Yeah. Knight d5, we're still live.
Although I think that's the wrong usage, right? You're meant to use it for like, let's go, we're having fun.
But this is literally we still live because you don't end up losing
Exactly,
the bishop,
yeah.
So with you.
Cool move.
Oof.
I don't know if it's good or not, but
Whoa.
knight b4.
What's going on here?
The bar drops. Whoops. I just wanted to point out there is a pin on this bishop, and if you take the knight, whoops, you capture the rook in the corner, and the black bishop is pinned, so cannot recapture after some checks. Back, rank, spank, yeah, from white, but I don't know why I said that. Knight b4, and yeah, I guess black can defend just with the rook, and in other ways.
It's been that kind of show, David. Don't worry.
That kind of tournament.
Getting that.
Okay, so
c6 is probably not working as we were talking. Queen c2 is still sort of pinned there, so it doesn't come with any ideas. Rook c8 is the big next move for Fabi. How do you respond? Because rook c8, and then you're just threatening to pick
Square, you know, you think that there's no way that white can play this. Because rook c8, one rook c8 would be, I thought that was a howler because, sorry, David. It just takes,
my
pawn takes
schoolyard
bishop.
nickname. Pawn takes bishop.
Yeah.
And queen takes queen.
Oh, queen takes queen. Why am I'm hallucinating because I thought rook takes queen. But the
and then pawn takes rook
Pawn
wins
takes
the
rook.
game.
I'm-
Another bank rank.
No, I made the howler there.
But I did see the bar thinks that that's fine. I mean, somewhere instead of pawn takes bishop, there is something else here, Yobi, for white. Something stronger.
Wow. Okay. I've been naughty. I just checked because my brain wasn't seeing any good moves here to defend this pawn.
e5.
E5.
Yeah,
Nice.
let's go.
And Jovanka, just to show your idea, if this pawn on E5 is captured, now after a trade of knights,
No.
This
Now
is what
your
you
idea.
wanted.
Exactly. So I knew my brain was functioning some way.
now you
Yeah, now I get the queen.
reborn. And with a back rank checkmate. So E5 forces the black knight to block the newly opened diagonal. Now the best move for Magnus would be to bring the white knight forward and to try and plant it in on this D6 square. This is not easy. This gets mega complicated.
It really does. I mean, this position is just so complex. There's just no clear path here.
Yeah, you know, with pieces kind of being loose and undermined at every opportunity. Not easy. So c6.
C6.
Is it the best move, David?
Ooh, good question. I'm going to turn Mr. Fish, Mr. Stockfish, back on. Okay, 2 moves, roughly equal value, C6 and B4.
Which one's better?
0.00.
Both, yeah.
Both equally good.
I must admit, my kind of knee-jerk reaction was b4. But the only reason that I would not play that was because I feel like there's going to be a lot of trades. And we're going to be seeing like this fizzle out big time.
Just to show exactly what you're talking about, Jovanka, all the rooks come off the board. White can't even regain this pawn yet because the pawn on c5 drops. And actually, apparently black is just better here, unless white finds the move queen to a2. And even then, I'm not sure how much advantage you're playing for with white. Although you can maybe keep this c-pawn alive for a bit longer and later try and corral these 2 b-pawns. So Magnus, if he doesn't want to play with any risk, maybe he'll go for this. If he sees the move queen a2. If not, just to continue what we were talking about, c6, black's best is to take it with the bishop. And now, if white just pins this bishop, then black brings the rook across and black is just a pawn up. But I don't think there's any way to take advantage. But after c6, bishop takes, apparently white needs to find the move, b4, due to the a-file pin. And if black blocks, creates a protected pass pawn, now the a3 rook has opened up. And now, again, the move order, unclear which one's better, but suddenly we'll see like a tripling and just like a traffic jam, congestion of all the pieces.
And of course, every single move, drama, you got it, you name it, we're going to cover it. So stay with us.
Called the Ruy Lopez. It starts when we take this guy in front of our king. This is our king. And we're taking, these are like the foot soldiers. They're the weakest guys on the board, the ones that we can most easily sacrifice, so we kind of throw them forward immediately, although we don't always want to give them away. And then black just does the same thing. So same idea, copying us. And now we take this guy out, our horse, should I say horse? Yeah. And then he is attacking this guy right in front. So basically, if our opponent doesn't do anything, then we're just going to, next move, just take it off the board. And then we're going to have more material. So our opponent is probably going to not copy us, but they're probably going to try to stop us from doing that. So they're going to kind of mirror us. They're going to take their horse out, which it doesn't threaten us, but it makes sure that we can't, if we take this guy, then we lose our horse, and we don't want to do that because this is much better than these guys. This is really important. So we want to keep those, and we want to make sure that this horse is really not comfortable. So we take this guy out, and then we slide him along. These guys can go really far, so he goes almost the whole board, and now he's looking right at him, and there's nowhere for that horse to go, really. So it's, we can take it next move if we want. There's pretty much no escape, and that's the Ruy Lopez.
Hi, I'm International Master Jovanka Hauske, and welcome to my first course for Chessable, starting out the Caro-Kann. Light square strategy is what I like to call it. You put your pawns on light squares, you develop your pieces, and then when the time is right, you break out in the center. What I need you to do is get in the focus of quick development. Knight takes g7, check is possible, king moves to f8, attacking the knight, and now after knight to h5, what we want to be doing is first asking that question to the knight, because white can immediately go wrong with knight to e2. We simply go knight to b4, and this bishop and the knight have orchestrated a sneak attack against c2, and now black is totally winning. There are lifelines to help you remember the piece configurations, there are guidelines, there are cautionary tales, and of course there are my trademark phrases, all to help you get a good Caro-Kann.
Join the community club on chess.com and participate in amazing community events every week. On Mondays, challenge yourself with incredible openings in Opening Roulette. Don't miss on Title Tuesday every week right after Title Tuesday. On Wednesday, join Arena Kings and compete against a lineup of legendary creators. On Fridays, try the all-new Community Freestyle Fridays and throw opening theory out the window. And finally, round out the week by showing off your speed in the Community Bullet Brawl. Win prizes, battle legends, and challenge yourself. Play in the community tournaments every week on chess.com.
We are back, we are ready, and for all of the action that is coming, and the tension is building big time. Not only here in the studio, Nova's just joking. but the games as well. I mean, this is such a big round, and the players, they're rewarding us with some fighting chess.
Exactly what we were expecting, right? You've got these last 2 rounds remaining. The tournament is up for grabs. Norway Chess and Norway Chess Women. Anyone can take it away. And the fire on the board we have, it just shows the fire that the players have come in with today. Incredible preparation. Amazing middle game brewing up. I'm loving it. Look at what's happening in Fabi, Magnus. Look at what's happening on Hikaru, Arjun. Look at what's happening in Tingjie, Humpy, and Vaishali Kadam. It's awesome. I mean, hard to pick a game that we want to go to next.
And we have been reminded by a kind viewer that we need to place our bets.
We do need
the tension in the studio you were talking about.
Oh, I was just joking.
Now I'm feeling it. So where are we? Let's remind everyone.
Okay, I got my first points just before the rest day, and I still want to thank the 15% of you that voted for me on chat, and all those people who believed in me, and hopefully we can do it again.
You know, I feel that when you're really down at 0 and then you have love of these people, that's true love, Yovi. I mean, you know, that's them really standing by you. Yeah. So, yeah, that means something.
Yes, it does. It
Even
really
if you
is.
lose to a chair.
I think Danny Wrench is going to get this Armageddon prediction right.
The chair, yeah, we should have like the option of the chair, and I bet you the chair gets more votes than me.
That's true.
So what are our predictions today, guys? David, you go first.
2 Armageddons.
2 Armageddons. Do you want to break it down? Which ones you're expecting?
Carlsen, Caruana, and Ju Wenjun, and a Musichuk.
All else decisive. All right, 2 for David. Yovi?
This is difficult. I'm going to defer to you first. You go first.
You're such a trickster with that. Fine, I'll go first.
Yes,
I'll
thank you.
take on the challenge. All right, so you've taken 2. I also think that Lei Tingjie might. Fine, I'll go with 3.
Oh no!
Don't do that.
Was such a bad
threw it to
thing.
me,
I
alright?
did.
This
I
is on
did.
you.
It was
You can't
completely
blame me
on me. Yeah, because now I have it's like super sharp everywhere.
Always
I
go
can't
first.
go. I can't go 4 because I really don't think there's going to be 4. Can I go? I can't go 1. I'm gonna.
You can definitely not go.
I'm gonna-
It's between 4 and 5. Let me help you.
I'm going to lose anyway, so I might as well go 1. 1 Armageddon.
What? 1?
What you did? You took 2. He took 3.
Go for 1, and then you're upset that there's only 15% of chat supporting you. You say things like 1. What else do you expect?
Gukesh Wei Yi might also be a draw, Ivanka.
Yeah, but I can't say. Shit, you've literally taken 2.
But you
And she
think-
took 3.
But 4 is not. It's not impossible.
But look at these positions, Tanya. Look at them. They are wild. Like Hikaru and
want
Arjun
3?
is like the furthest.
Do you want 3?
No, no. I don't want to.
You're sticking to 1.
You can't stick to 1. Please take that back.
I would love it now if you change your mind to 4 and then it's 1.
No, I'm going to stick with 1. I'm prepared to lose. I'm going to go all gung-ho and say 1. I'm just going to unsettle you guys. And if you want to back me, in chat, that's fine. If you don't, back the chair. I don't mind.
So basically, therefore, the chair gets
5 and 6.
4, 5, 6.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
No wonder it's winning every day. But you know what? Let's get our chat into this and let's get that poll running. Does David get it right? Ivanka? Or of course, you know who wins this one. 3 for me, 2 for David, and 1 for Ivanka.
Wait, what? I was
You
on
said
3.
2. Oh, you.
Oh, I thought you meant overall wins. Yeah,
No,
2,
I meant 2,
2.
yeah. So 2 today, 3 and 1. Ivanka, seriously, I mean, that's honestly, I don't even feel like allowing that prediction to be legal.
I think it's going to look like genius come the end of the
Do you think?
If you win, I think Ivanka deserves 1 extra point for that. Well, Vic just
What
moved.
has happened? What's happening
We're
here?
joined by...
being
We're joined by
fired.
producer Bic. Is my vote on?
It's the Fantastic Four now,
Unacceptable.
just to mention.
Avengers.
You choose 4. Okay, Bic.
And he did defeat me in Blitz yesterday, so if he wins this, then tomorrow, final round, I'm out, I'm producing. Vic is sitting here.
Wait, we need to talk about that. You lost to Vic yesterday?
That wasn't my finest moment. Moving on.
Wow, that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
Were
what
there
can I say?
odds?
No.
What?
What can I say? I underestimated him.
was there drinking water or anything of that kind involved?
The night before, I didn't drink enough water, that's all I'll say. But,
That is insane. But Vic, that's a big win. And if he gets a win today, that would be a big one. But in our overall leaderboard, it's 3, 2, and 1, right?
Yeah, exactly. And on our predictions,
Yeah.
and you guys didn't follow the pattern because he chose 2.
I chose
chose
3.
3.
Because you handed me the power to go next.
I know.
We've
but
never had 1, right?
We've never had 1. We've had 5.
But we've had 5 Armageddons.
Had 2, 3,
And
4.
we also had someone predicting that would be. You've predicted there's going to be all Armageddons.
Yeah, but that was because I was trying to throw the vote. Just
I'll tell you one game that doesn't go into Armageddon, it's Hikaru versus Arjun. I mean, that top
That's
right
crazy.
forward, look at, I see the bar, it's screaming for white. And that last move that Hikaru played, I think it was the best move because the bar didn't move at all. So Hikaru really showing his A game right now. Is Arjun in big trouble already out of the opening?
It's just not pleasant at all for Arjun here. I think opening prep, maybe he was kind of betting that Hikaru would go a bit more risky or that Hikaru would do something different along the way. But Arjun's opening here looks really shaky. Just to break down the last 2 moves, we did see the one that Hikaru himself was talking about in the confessional. Pawn to h6, given a question mark, and the bar rises even further, inches up for white here. Hikaru was talking about this move, I think it was in his prep from around 4 or 5 moves ago already. Hikaru was being baited into, or tempted into taking this pawn on h7 over the last few moves. Eventually, Arjun said to himself, I can't afford to hang that pawn any longer. He pushes it forward, but now Hikaru just improves his rook. A nice move. This is a semi-open file after all. And he's saying to Arjun, if you ever castle, then I'll play the move g5. And if you try and block it, I'll push the pawn even further to g6. And any addition here of the queen, of any other pieces, is just going to end in checkmate. For example, if black tries to keep things locked up, you could imagine the white queen coming, moving the knight out the way, and sooner or later, queen takes pawn, queen to h7. I'll just put this on the board. You could even give up a knight at this point. Oh, maybe you can't. Oh, look at the bar. I shouldn't be so complacent. That's why I lost a bit yesterday. Knight d4. Let's make a sensible move instead of being flashy. And yeah, next move, queen takes pawn, and checkmate is coming. Queen to h7.
Wow. That is very terrifying, and I just want to say it feels as if Hikaru will be the first to Arjun's king in these opposite side castling if they were to occur dynamics. But even with the king in the center, you just feel that Hikaru's made so much progress. The problem in Arjun's position is that you don't have any good breaks on the queen side. You know, you don't have that b5, b4 hook. You see the c3 pawn, but there's really no way. The queen on c2 is not only an attacker, but a great defender to b2. I mean, this would really help Arjun's cause to try to get that attack going. With none of those pawn breaks in, with a very difficult situation of how do you triple on the B line considering you're playing down one of your biggest toys in the nursery, it's hard to imagine an attack, or at least Arjun needs a lot of time, and Hikaru is essentially 2 moves away, right? g5, g6.
Yeah, and I also want to suggest something really radical, just like my Armageddon prediction. Bishop to g6.
Oof.
These are the kind of ideas you really need to be worried about at the right time, you know.
What are our sound effects for bishop to g6?
Okay, it doesn't work right now, but it's definitely in the air, right? Because you can imagine a scenario, say the queen moves away from c7, you see bishop g6 lands on the board.
Oh, it's good, it's good, it's good. Oh, it's good. It's not winning, but it's good.
It's not winning, no, but it's definitely in the air, because I'm just looking at ideas like f takes g6, the queen moves away, and then the king has to... You can... Look!
I love it.
Boom.
And
King runs, and...
Knight just...
Take on e6.
You can take on e6, right?
And knight e4. Oof.
How about this one? Wait.
Oh.
I want to take here, but I don't know if it works.
It looks tempting, right?
What was wrong with queen takes e6 is what I'm wondering, because knight e5 is coming next. You can't go king c8 because e7's hanging.
What's wrong with this? That is a good question.
Maybe you go for b2. I don't know.
Queen b7 or something?
I was curious. So rook b5, of course.
Of course. I mean, that's an easy
Stop
find.
e5,
That has to be it.
Stops knight e5 and threatens, well, I guess you throw the rook in the way, save your life. But just to point out, this is winning because just queen takes g7 instead. And when the rook moves, you've also prepared knight e5.
Yeah. And maybe you also get a second queen on the board. Take the pawn on h5, h6, h7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
But it just goes to show so much danger, right? You've got g5, g6, you've got bishop to g6 coming. And it's all about that black king, which is stuck there in the middle. And there's no safe way to handle this. I mean, okay, what are the moves to survive here for Arjun? Because we are talking about survival, right?
I think we already are. You're absolutely right. And it comes down to that point that Arjun's just not managed to create any counterplay on the queen side at all. Meanwhile, Hikaru's just got everything in. Speaking of survival, it's the kind of position that screams, develop your pieces and castle, kids.
Yeah. Arjun, he's broken so many rules. Actually, if you think about it earlier, he brought his queen out. He's moved his queen 3-4 times at least. Like, his bishop's never moved. He put his rook out instead of maybe getting the time to castle earlier. He's got shattered pawns here, isolated pawns, which don't help create those breaks that he needs. He's hating life, I'm going to say it. Arjun Erigaisi, he would love this position with white. I think he would beat anyone in the world if he had the white pieces. He would just crush them from this position, but he's on the defensive side, and he's about to make a move. It is pawn to c5. I will mention that was the top computer move. Everything else, and white's advantage was shooting through the roof almost. So at least he's trying to seek some counterplay, maybe to get his bishop to a better square, maybe to kick white's bishop away, but also to take this square away from the white knight.
Are we going to see Jovanka's brilliancy here? Because I can see the makings of it. For example, we continue with the plan g5, right? Hikaru's idea is very clear. He wants to break through g5. I don't know if you take or not, but the point I want to make is c4, you hit the bishop. And it's bishop g6 the move. That lands.
Boom.
It's irresistible.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Nice.
Almost.
I mean, it's very good. It's very good. And especially with the pawn move to g5, because normally as black, you might want to defend f7 by castling, right? Defend with your rook. But now with the pawn on g5, I mean, you just don't even consider anything else. You just take it, you open up the g file, and you just go for the black king. Still a bit away from checkmate, but this just feels killer, this attack. Oh, I love it. Jovanka, that was not on my radar, but maybe it'll be on Hikaru's radar.
Now it's all I can think of, bishop g6.
It's good, isn't it? It's kind of really tempting in this type of position. You were looking for a breakthrough, you want to open up lines. It's the currency of an attack, so you're either going to break through, bulldoze the position with your pawns, or the bishop. Do it in radical ways. This is really, really dangerous for Arjun here, and g5 looks so natural, Tanya. It looked like such a great move.
The last 5 moves, he's kind of set that up, right? With h4, g4, bringing the rook on f1. And maybe it is, like you said, on Hikaru's radar, because that rook from f1, bishop g6 becomes that much more stronger because you're eyeing that tender spot on f7. You're looking at sacrifices like bishop takes pawn. So I think Hikaru was setting these plans up to come together. You know, you get g5, you get bishop g6. And I want to ask both of you, because there's also so much of a psychological warfare going on in this game right now. Both have come from a win, right, in round 8, but very different kind of wins. For Arjun, he was under pressure throughout the game. He was worse against Fabi, and it was a time scramble that paid to his advantage. And David, if you spot any big moment, like just take us there immediately. But I just wanted to say, for Hikaru, the game that he played against Gukesh, that's got to be a huge confidence boost.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you know how chat says, bro thinks he's Hikaru? That was one of those games that we had.
Yeah, totally agree with you that it was a big game. You know, you could see it on the smile on his face. But I'm going to take us back to the game board viewer, because I just noticed a big moment, and it's really wild there in Norway Chess, because top left between Gukesh and Wei Yi, well, Gukesh kind of uncorked some home preparation, queen to d3, the queen got kicked around to f3, but question mark here, because Wei Yi's last move was f7, f5, g5, locking the position down was the response, but we've got to break down, like, how did the queen get from c4 all the way to f3, and then what happened in the meantime?
Yeah, and I'm going to pose a few questions as well, because mostly to Gukesh's opening prep, because let's backtrack and talk about what did happen. Queen c4, remember everyone, the queen came from d1, it moved up to d3, moved up to c4. Now the bishop came out to hit it, and we left it after the move queen to f4, and still a big threat on the board. We talked about this one earlier. Bishop takes knight due to the fact there is a pin along the d file. Wei Yi defended this very nicely actually by playing pawn to d5, so gaining space while also defending with his bishop here. Knight into d4, trying to gain the bishop pair. The black bishop now improved itself, hitting the white queen, which only has 1, maybe 2 safe squares if you count g5, but definitely not trading queens here if you want an advantage. So queen back to f3. Queen d7, threatening bishop to g4 with a skewer on the queen and rook. That had to be stopped. h3, c6, solidifying the center. White goes for it, g4, f5, and yeah, now g5. And I just want to mention, there are some lines in this opening where, with the white queen on d1, you move your knight out to d4, then you get queen f3 in one move. Here, he's gone queen d3, queen c4, queen f4, queen f3. It's taken 4 moves to get there. And g5, the question mark move, just to confirm, white should actually objectively be taking the bishops off the board, get rid of the bishop pair, and opening up of the position you don't have to worry about anymore, because the white bishops will love that. g5 allows what Wei Yi has just played, f4, forcing the white bishop back, and positionally this looks odd for white. Like this bishop is now caged behind its own lines. I mean, maybe you're still going to get the bishop pair at some point, but it does feel like your queen is just a pure blockader. Queens are the worst blockaders, and my question is, yeah, why is he doing this? Why is he provoking Wei Yi forward like this?
It's very strange, right? Because you want to have that tension to be able to open lines towards your opponent's king. And here you've just blocked all possibility. You've also created some light square weaknesses. If Gukesh wants to hang on to that knight and bishop, I want to also point out a plan that's always in the air of bishop f7, queen e8, and bishop h5, taking advantage of the squares that have been left behind. And then, Jovanka, this is something that I've learned from you. I think, David, you also mentioned it earlier from both of you, really, that, you know, you go back, I go forward, bishop d2, the knight can jump forward to e4 now, again targeting that bishop. I mean, it just looks like such a healthy position. You're attacking the pawn. Let's say you go rook g1, a natural move to defend it, and now black can fall back with the bishop with the other plan that I was talking about. And it just feels like, where is Gukesh's attack against the black king? And look at Wei Yi's forces at the center of the board.
Yeah.
Just beautiful harmony with the minors and the majors.
Yeah, totally agree there, Tanya. And I just love this move, bishop f7, queen e8. It's not necessarily that intuitive to go back, but once you spot the idea of just pouncing on the queen on f3, just attacking it, it's wonderful. And it's actually makes perfect sense because, as David says, the principles are the queens are the worst blockaders. Why? Because they can get kicked away very easily.
Yeah, anything that hits them, they have to run.
Yeah.
They have to lose even more time. And that has been a theme. We talked about Gukesh's openings this tournament. Most of the bad positions he's had, Gukesh, it's because it's very move by move. It's like very calculation based. So he'll move his queen because it's the best move there and then. But then the next move, he'll also move his queen because it looks like the best move. And I remember against Magnus, his position over the course of like 10 moves, only one move, only one piece kind of improved. Against Fabiano, course of around 10 moves, only one piece improved. It feels like he's playing for specific lines, specific tactics, and that really has helped him in those. I mean, he's been fantastic in the kind of time scrambles because he's seeing these tactics. But
Absolutely, because just optically and visually, right, like you said, white only has the knight and the queen into play. And there's really nothing else to count for in this position. Your rooks are not connected. It's not like white has a pawn on h5, g5, ready to strike. You're still far away from all of that because you've spent so much time with the queen dance earlier. And again, this is move 16 with the white pieces. Meanwhile, look at all of Wei Yi's forces, everything playing in the center, knight jumping forward, maybe even the rook coming onto that open line that you're pointing out. It feels like Gukesh has made just a few moves, while Wei Yi has made 10 moves in a row and improved every single piece.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly works as well. Follows the principles because what Wei Yi has done is says, if your opponent works on the wings, you strike out in the center. And that's exactly what he did with f5, f4. I really love your knight to e4 because it completely contains the white queen. And there's just no path of attack, because white is attacking with h4, h5, g6 or h6, but it's literally just a pawn. But nothing scary.
Nothing scary at all. And I'm just wondering, Ivanka, if knight e4 does allow Gukesh the bailout of getting rid of the bishop pair, like let's say knight takes bishop becomes a possibility. So is Wei Yi in fact considering to just take that away? Instead of immediately jumping to the center of the board, the most natural move, get that knight to e4, is he thinking that perhaps it's time to just retreat with the bishop and keep knight e4 as a threat?
looks good. I also see another path for the bishop into e4.
Ooh, nice.
Oof, this looks a bit scary.
I actually like bishop f7 a lot.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? I mean, white really has to do some contorting here because I'm thinking h4 to get ready to meet queen e8 with bishop h3. And you fight. Can you go h5 as well?
h5 as well, I was thinking. Looks good.
Oh, wow, and it just turns around. So black still has to be precise. It's not as easy as it looks.
But maybe your idea, bishop g6, are we in time to get that e4 square instead?
Yeah, and then maybe bishop h3.
h3 maybe.
Still tricky.
Yeah. I think this is the downside to like vacating this diagonal so soon. The bishop comes out to h3. Although I wonder why black is doing so well here. I'm being naughty today. I'm checking Mr. Engine a bit. h4. Apparently, knight e4. You just chill. You just move, and it's not such a big deal actually getting the bishop pair for white. Apparently, apparently there's something even better here for black. Knight e6.
Queen a5.
Wow. You switch focus, and then you just play rook e8 next move, kick the knight out. I mean, it does get complicated. Like it's not like totally one-way traffic.
No.
We should mention. But it does feel like Gukesh has been very, very kind of liberal with his moves. He's been kind of giving chances to the opponent. I mean, that's what you've got to do sometimes if you want to win games. So I kind of understand it, what Gukesh is doing.
I'm still so surprised at the amount of times in Norway Chess, Gukesh has just come in a worse position right out of the opening. Whether playing white, whether playing black, sometimes an early mistake, sometimes right at the start of a middle game. But this is just something that I think we're not used to from Gukesh, you know. We see those mistakes happen, of course. Everyone makes them. But it's at the later part of the game. I don't know how many games. I think, you know, whether it's against Magnus, whether it was against Arjun, just every single game, Fabi as well. And today, this one against Wei Yi, against Hikaru yesterday. It's like he's just not getting his positions. And then he's trying to kind of fight his way out from a position of weakness every single time.
But he has kept the necessary complexity to hold his nerve and take those opportunities when presented to him. But Hikaru said it himself, you know, Gukesh has been pretty shaky in this event. You know, there's been moments where he's really been on the back foot. And today, he finds himself once again having to find those accurate moves to retain the balance. And h4 was an important resource for white with the idea of going h5, maybe bishop h3 at the right time.
But that's the thing, right, Ivanka? If like so early on you're playing white and you're already thinking about what resources I have for counterplay, it's just not a situation you want to be in. You want to be able to play a position that has balanced chances for both players. And even just, yes, it's far from over. Like you said, not one-way traffic. But Gukesh can't be happy about this opening outcome.
Yeah, I think he's just calculating, and he knows he's not like immediately in any trouble in any concrete lines, so he'll probably just say, okay, it's a position. But yeah, we have the eval bar. We know and we see that white's been kicked back a lot over the last few moves. So it definitely feels like Wei Yi the happier of the two. Although Wei Yi, I don't think he's got any classical wins so far in this tournament. So winning this position with black is still going to be a whole nother matter. Can I make a request for the next game?
Do it without making a request.
Okay, let's do it.
Surprise us.
Surprise. Let's jump to, boom, Humpy, Koneru Humpy against Lei Tingjie. Because last we left it, okay, actually a lot of moves. This is the live position. Fast forward. This was earlier. Fast forward to this position. Look at the bar. Black with a decent advantage. She's the tournament leader, Humpy. So this is looking very good for her. Let's go all the way back to when we last left it. We saw bishop to e5. Here, the most popular move for black, we should mention, is knight back to f6. And it's still unknown whether Lei Tingjie would have retreated her bishop. But if she had, we might well have just seen a very quick draw. But Humpy, instead, she is the one to say no repetition for you. She eliminates this bishop. And I'm a bit surprised now that the pawn took on e5. I would have thought the knight would capture, gaining a bit of time as well against the black knight on the edge of the board. But nope, pawn takes, black queen moves, queen to a4, stopping black from castling queenside. The a pawn would be hanging if black decides to go long. So bishop to d7. Instead, we saw something very similar played by Anna Muzychuk. The bar hates this move, I've got to say, but the position is still very tense. Pawn to h3, maybe preparing to boot the knight away. The knight moves. Now e4, given a big question mark. And Humpy, the reason I wanted to take us here, not just because she's got an advantage, is because she played a brilliant move. Pawn to d4. Blue arrow shows it's by far the best. Essentially giving up a pawn, at least for now, but closing down the white position, especially these minor pieces. If she had taken this pawn, everyone at home might be wondering, why not take a pawn? Keep the material balance. But suddenly the white knight gets in the game. Big checks in the air, and this would have been fantastic for Lei Tingjie. But d4, closing things down. The white queen has to move again. Knight takes pawn, allows a capture of the white pawn, level material. Black with the bishop pair. So queen takes pawn, knight to e6, blue arrow marks it, Humpy plays it, and the queen moves. So here we are, black with the advantage, but she still needs to prove it.
Yeah, she still needs to prove it. She also has to decide where to put the pieces because, you know, this pawn on e5, it would annoy me as a pawn grabber that it still exists on the board. Like, are you going to go bishop to g7? Are you simply going to castle queenside? What direction to take?
This has been really...
Sorry, go on, Tanya.
No, I agree. You could mix it up, start with one or the other, but I do like the idea of going long castle with the king at some point. I mean, to your point, you know, sacrificing that central pawn, key move, and then immediately making sure that Tingjie doesn't have the opportunity to sacrifice it back with the move e6 and planting your knight there. Very precisely played because e6 would actually free up white's position. For Humpy, being down a pawn, and having those e5, e4 works in her favor. It's sort of the pawns that she wants on the board and not off the board. The bishop pair, super important. The bishop on d3 stuck. The knight doesn't have an e4 square because there's an e4 pawn. The knight on f3 doesn't have an e5 square because there's an e5 pawn. Down a pawn, the bar gives Humpy quite a bit of an opening advantage. To me, it's a bit of a surprise because it looks pleasant. But is it that much obvious why it's so better for her? Yes, the bishop pair, but what more, David?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's anything concrete. Just to mention, there are tactics in the air, like b5 is possible, kicking the white queen back, and then you jump in with the knight. Sorry, coughing. Sorry, everyone at home with earphones especially. But I think it's essentially, it's similar to what Arjun Erigaisi faced a bit earlier in his game. If you castle on the king side with white, then the black pawns are ready to storm that flank, storm that side of the board, and you might just get attacked. If you castle to the other side, you might get attacked by the black pawns on this flank as well. So it feels like you're just caught in no man's land. The white king is flexible, hasn't committed yet, but no matter where you go, you'll be facing an onslaught to pawn storm.
And there's a limit to what kind of waiting moves you make. Because say you have bishop to g7 on the board. What is the next move for white? Like if you castle queenside, then David's idea of b5 and, you know, potentially harassing the king on that side of the board is relevant. And there you can see the evaluation bar is saying, yay, it is all systems go there for black. And if you castle kingside, well, that's not really attractive either, because suddenly h5, g4 appears and there's a ready-made attack down the h line. So I'm struggling to come up with a really good waiting move if black were to go bishop to g7, not with the idea necessarily of going bishop takes c5, but actually just to say, your turn, white, what are you going to do?
I love it. I think that might be the reason castling queenside for Humpy is attractive. It's probably just a good move, but it might be better to wait, because if white does the same, then it's very much harder to start pushing your pawns, although still very possible to push your pawns. Yeah, maybe keeping options open, bishop g7, would be the best practical try.
By the way, guys, we have lost the faith of chat.
What happened?
No.
Oh.
The empty chair has beaten all of us.
What?
How can
We need
that
to get
even
this
be?
up.
Okay.
This is just embarrassing.
Yeah.
What does that say
We're going
about
to
us?
prove chat wrong. Us versus chat. It's the end game.
It's the end game. Okay, I got 12%. I'm not surprised by that because I had a very gutsy prediction. I predicted just one Armageddon. David predicted 2 Armageddons. He gets 28% of the vote. Tanya, 23%. This dude over here, 37%. So you can't even see the invisible man.
The invisible man who predicted 4, by the way. Vic did come in and said that
On behalf of
on
the
behalf
chair.
of the chair,
4.
chair predicts 4, and there we have our 4th commentator, the invisible one, right there with
37% of the vote.
Bye, Ivanka. Okay, bring you back.
Yeah, okay.
Empty chair.
Empty chair is the winner. Well,
I mean, we'll all be out of jobs. Not only is AI taking over the world, empty chairs are taking over the world.
I think I got this. I'm getting the 3 Armageddons, and then chat can eat their own poll.
but what happens if the chair is right? What do we do?
Oh my God.
We
even
have to come up with a scenario.
Why?
If the chair is right, what?
I mean, honestly, Ivanka, you could have just said 4. And then the chair would not have been right. Now it's an actual possibility that the chair would be right.
Chat is not going to be right.
Are you blaming me? Are you blaming me for this existence of the chair?
This problem that we find ourselves in, you know?
Okay, I take the. I'm sorry, I was reckless. I did not think of the long-term possibilities. I'm sorry for introducing the chair into the equation.
I'm almost hoping we get 1 now. That would be epic.
It would be. Unlikely,
But epic.
would be epic. Yeah. Okay, so where to jump next? We see the rainbow-coloured smorgasbord of positions here, and still very tense on most boards. The only real kind of eval bar swings are Gukesh being in a little bit of trouble, potentially, and Hikaru with a fantastic, beautiful position, and Humpy, as we talked about, with the advantage with black.
Yeah, after that very strategic pawn sacrifice, right? Usually you give up pawns in the opening to get the tactics going, but Humpy for those positional gains. Very classy stuff going on there. Wenjun, the world champion, to me, looks like could be in trouble. I mean, I look at that F-pawn that Anna Muzichuk has just rolled up the board. And yes, still too early to call, but optically looks good. That's the bottom left board. Meanwhile, on our bottom right board, Sara Khadim playing with her knights, eyeing those dark squares. Also a very complex position. Not a single trade has happened there. Where should we jump to next, Ivanka? Some rich picks.
It's definitely some rich picks, but I think that Ju Wenjun against Anna Muzichuk is so important for the standings. Both of the players tied in second place, so we do have to head there. And especially because there's been a change in the position, because we thought white was doing very well. It looked very, very comfortable, and now we have a complete change.
And interesting mind games afoot here. We should drag it all the way back to when we last left this, because we had a bit of a bluff maybe by one player and a big decision by the other. We last left it with the black bishop having just dropped back. I'm going to put that on the board actually, because this was the position just before we jumped in earlier. The black bishop now dropped back to d7, protecting the knight, also x-raying the white queen. The white knight now retreated to e3, trying to get into d5. And here, Anna Muzychuk said, bishop to e6. Would you like to repeat? Will you bring your knight back to c4? And we might have seen a draw in this position. But Ju Wenjun, maybe feeling the need to win, the pressure with the white pieces, decided not to repeat the position with knight to c4. She also decided not to kind of change the nature of the position by playing bishop takes knight, ruining the black pawns, but as we said earlier, losing your beautiful light-squared bishop. So c4, a big decision here. This one is always very controversial, though. Yes, you get a square, but you also give a square to the black knight, and we see that come into play very shortly. Queen to d7, the white knight now jumped in. This was ignored. Anna Muzychuk, great calmness, by the way, to just allow kind of a bad bishop here, but also the white knight to sit on a beautiful outpost. But as we see in a moment, bishop to d2, she had ideas of her own. Knight d4, tension between the queens. If you take the black queen now, black could jump in with an intermezzo, a zwischen, zug, an in-between move, check, hitting the king, winning a pawn, and then taking the queen. So white couldn't trade, white had to go back. Now Ju Wenjun on the back foot. A double down of the e2 pawn attack, rook to e1, b6, and here we sit f5, and we're live.
Love it. And I think that f5 pawn isn't stopping there. The idea is clear, right? Give Anna 2 moves, f4, f3 is coming in. You've got the rook, knight, bishop beautifully placed. Was f3 played by white? Yes, it was. So stopped in its track, attacks the bishop. But it's not a happy move, right? Because you leave out these dark square weaknesses. You shut out your own bishop on g2. To me, this does signal that Wenjun's not comfortable with her position if this is a defensive resource that she needs to resort to.
Yeah, she's definitely not comfortable because there was a knight on d4, a bishop on g4 on her side of the board. So I do think that f3 was pretty necessary because, as you indicated, f4 was also on the radar for black. So here I think she has to commit to the plan of just booting out the black pieces. So the bishop goes h5, e3, chase that knight away. And there you can start doing some repair work. And it's typical, yeah, and here I'm just thinking maybe you can go queen to d2 and kind of pile up on the long diagonal, line up with the bishop, and start putting pressure.
Yeah, this is what she wants, and the connect 4, I'm just going to mention, it does control a lot of squares. Probably the black knight goes the other way. Probably I kind of misspoke there, and after the knight gets kicked, the knight goes this way. And the big question is whether Anna Muzychuk can ever kind of power through with her pawns successfully. If she can, maybe big attack for black. But if she can't, then maybe Ju Wenjun will get a grip of the center by playing a move like f4. Like Ivanka said, queen on b2, and it's just very cagey.
Do you think Wenjun is regretting not going in for the repetition, or does she still think this is a fighting chance for white?
I think maybe a little tinge of regret, but it's still very tense. She's not like clearly worse.
No, she isn't.
No, but also I can see Ju Wenjun like grinding it out from this type of position because she at least has a plan, and you know this whole idea of just taking control of the dark squares. Whereas for Anna, it's not exactly that clear where she is going. So this is still super cagey position.
Yeah, and for Wenjun, a big match, you know. Muzychuk, Humpy, that's her schedule for the last 2 days. She starts with this one, and that's also her shot at glory, right? Mm-hmm. She has her fate in her hands, 2 wins, and she take the Norway Chess title. So a big position, a big moment, a big game for our leaderboard. Anna Muzychuk has been so incredibly consistent in this tournament. She's a joint second along with Wenjun, right behind Humpy, that 1-point lead. So I think Anna's also got to be feeling happy about her chances with that knight in the center of the board, the 2 pawns grabbing up so much space, the bishops playing well. A game for all 3 results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a game for all 3 results. To be honest, it looks like that throughout. The only games where I think that there's going to be a draw is probably between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. That's looking like it's leveling out. But it's really, really tense in the bottom right between Vaishali Kadem. I'm just seeing that white is broken in the center, but black has firm control over f4. I don't know whether we should dive into there or whether we should just have a look at some of the wilder games.
Yeah, let's at least update ourselves. I don't know if there are any wilder games. This looks pretty wild between Vaishali and Sarah Kadem. Of course, big stakes, especially for Vaishali if she wants to win the tournament. Sarah here playing for rating, playing for pride, but cannot come first. And okay, a few moves since we moves ago. And here, white, not knowing what to do with her knight on d2, very logically retreated, knight to f1. The knight often comes to e3 later and can jump forward to some nicer squares. Sarah retreated her own knight. That knight was also stuck. It's coming over to the king side, where there are some holes to plug. We see knights jumping, the white queen move, knight to h5, nice square as well for black to sit in. I don't think she's going to be trading this bishop on the next move. And after d4, it is black's turn. The reason you don't normally take this bishop is because you only open up white's rook. Normally, you'd far prefer putting a knight on the f4 square. Are we surprised to see that the bar is quite decently in black's favor right now? Apparently d4 a mistake.
I mean, to me, it honestly looked like the most natural move that you want to get going in this position. It's such a thematic idea. You want to get some activity for that bishop on g3. You want to at least try to force black's hand into taking a decision. Do you take on g3? Do you plant your knight on f4, allowing some trades? It surprises me that the engine doesn't like the move d4. From a human perspective, I think that's a completely different evaluation.
Is it g4? Does that win a pawn? g4, I always do this when I play the hippopotamus defense with black. Often you kind of put a knight on g6, then you play the move g4, and you stop the white knight coming to h4, and often you actually trap this piece. But here, I guess the knight moves.
But then that's a pawn sacrifice. What happens? Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn.
Oh, bar hates that one.
What is it? Can you go queen c6, queen d5 ideas I'm looking at?
Whoops.
Ooh. And there's a triple attack even.
Yeah.
There's not only the knight on h5, the mate on f7, but the bishop on d4.
Oops. Did not see that coming.
But maybe you go queen d7.
Just to show the checkmate.
Yeah, let's do it because we love showing the checkmate.
There we go. King
What's
trapped.
the name?
Huh? The name of this one?
Yeah.
It's not Kiss of That.
Scholar's Mate?
Oh, yeah. A few moves too late, but it's in.
It's only 16 moves later than normal. The 4-move checkmate. Yeah, I agree, queen d7, Tanya. And the big question for me is, like, after g4, I was saying don't take this bishop, but maybe we take this bishop because the knight was hanging in some lines. Maybe we take this piece and then we go for the pawn. And now this idea of queen to c6 check, Tanya's idea of blocking with the queen, stopping the... Oh, wow, bar hates it. What?
Bishop f7, queen d5?
Wow, bishop f7, check. Double attack.
Very nice.
King takes.
Learning from the best.
Ooh, all the double attacks. And at the very end, white has restored the material balance and the black king is weak. So after queen d5 check, oh no, sorry, not even queen d5 check, queen c6 check. This is like the key line because if Sarah can calculate this, and we've already messed up a few times, so it's complicated, but
Can you
she'll just be a pawn
go
up.
bishop d7 and then queen f6? Well, she's done. g4. It's happened on the board, and there you can see that everything is protected, right? Now that the knight on h5 is no longer loose.
Bishop held, pawn held. Computer gives a big advantage for black. So she's played g4, and we might be headed in this direction. Vaishali might have miscalculated here.
And this is a very Vaishali type of line and idea to go for. You know, she sees these complications, these tactics, these skirmishes, and she wants to fight. But Sarah has to show nerves of steel here and just call the bluff. She needs to sit down and calculate this sort of very precisely, find the defense, and then be brave enough and gutsy enough because you're either up a pawn or you lose on the spot.
Exactly. And
Practically not the easiest decision.
not easy. I definitely feel it's going to be one or the other. It's going to be very, very good for black, or it's going to be very, very bad. But we'll see if that normally promises fun. I'm pretty sure this won't be an Armageddon somehow.
Well, it's certainly looking wild, so we're expecting to see a decisive result. But will it happen? Well, we don't know. We are going to go on a break, but don't forget that on Fridays, something special happens, because don't miss this week's Community Freestyle Friday. Every Friday, this event is open to everyone to compete in a Chess 960 style arena and win Diamond membership on chess.com starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Try your hand at the unpredictable variant that has the chess world talking. Use !CommunityFF in chat or visit go.chess.com/communityff for more information. And on that note, it's looking pretty freestyle right now. We are going to go on a quick break, and when we return, we are going to dive into all of the action. So don't go anywhere. We are back and it's so close at the top. Game 9 here at Norway Chess. And we're going to dive straight into this game between Hikaru Nakamura and Arjun Erigaisi. Position was wild, but we just saw a potential repetition with Hikaru playing rook to d1. And we've got to ask Tanya, David, break it down for us. What's happening?
Well, I just want to backtrack and show why this is a potential repetition right here, right now. If Arjun was to slide the rook on d6, that's when we get it. Hikaru essentially offering a draw in this moment. David, let's do an action replay and see how we got here, because last time we touched in with this, it felt like Hikaru was in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and we're yet to see whether the players or who of the players wants to win this one. But h6 was played, rook hf1. We talked about this position, c5 now. And Hikaru with a mysterious move. We were talking about how strong this bishop was on this diagonal. The idea of bishop to g6 in the air as well. Hikaru moved his bishop the other direction, pinning down the black bishop where it stands. If bishop c6, we would see some sacrifices and the white queen coming in. Ideas we discussed earlier before the break. But this was rebuffed by Arjun defending his 6th rank, patrolling the 6th here with his rook. The white queen slides, hitting the f7 pawn, maybe. Arjun ignores it, rook to d6, offering a rook trade. Hikaru moves away, says no. Rook to b6 going back. Hikaru's also gone back. We see 2 question mark moves. I think Hikaru on the last move should be going for it. He should be playing moves like g5. You can maybe even push the e-pawn forward as well. The game is still so rich, full of possibility, but Hikaru asking Arjun, is repetition the sincerest form of flattery here?
But is he asking Arjun to show his cards and how ambitious he is? Or do you think that Hikaru actually wants to do a 3-fold repetition right now? Is that his feeling about the position, Jovanka?
Yeah, it could be that, but it also could be a scenario where he just wants to get that one move closer to move 40, where they're getting that extra 10 seconds. And plus, he'll know the state of mind of Arjun.
I think that's a big one.
Yeah. So we could be seeing repetition. We could just be seeing a repetition of moves and then Hikaru switching things up. Because it would be a little bit strange to take a repetition in such a wild position.
It's filled with possibilities, right? There's no forced line and Arjun goes for it.
Okay.
He brings the rook back, and that is the second time I want to say this position has come in front of us. Will Hikaru now switch it up with a potential rook trade or find another move? Or will he just slide the rook to that other central line and offer a draw? This might just end right here, right now, but it's a position full of fight. I want these two to go on.
I want them to go on too. We should mention if Hikaru does move his rook away and Arjun goes back, that would only be the second time of that position as well. So ultimately, Hikaru, if they follow this path, he will be the last one who can say, let's go, let's play on. But yeah, it feels like Arjun is happy with the draw. I don't blame Arjun at all here. He's got black. He's been on the defensive the whole game. The black king still slightly vulnerable on the f-file, and wherever it ends up, it will be attacked. So Arjun, I think a draw would be a great relief. But Hikaru, this is his moment. If he wants to win this tournament with white in classical, a 3-pointer, surely he should play on.
Yeah, and also, just to mention, then game 10, Hikaru is going to be having the black pieces against Wei Yi. But is that Hikaru returning to the chair? No. Where is Hikaru? Perhaps he's in the confessional booth saying, I might repeat twice. Nope, he wasn't.
All right, moment of truth, guys. Will we see rook e1 or will we see another move by Hikaru? What's our prediction? What do you think, Jovanka? I think he repeats. I think he goes rook e1.
Okay, I'm going to take the different position. I'm going to say he's not going to repeat. He's going to play something else.
He's going to repeat. I think he doesn't care as much about winning this tournament as he does protecting his rating.
For that candidate spot.
The candidate spot. That is all important to him. That's the #1 priority in Hikaru's chess career right now.
And then he says, we fight in the Armageddon, where that pressure is off.
Yeah.
But what is the risk factor involved here for white in playing on? Because there's no harmony to black's position at all.
I wouldn't say it's totally risk-free, right? Black has got this bishop pair. Let's say you do another choice, like you trade on d6, just for example. Black comes with the bishop forward. The other bishop lines up on c6. I'm eyeing ideas at bishop g3. I'm one move away from getting shock castle rook b8. White, yes, I see g5, but you can't say that this is a position for two results.
If all the rooks and queens come off, black is just better. Like, two bishops will most likely do quite well against the white bishop and knight. So you need to keep queens and ideally as many rooks on the board as possible for Hikaru, but he's shaking his head.
Yeah, that's a sign. I felt that. That shake of his head.
It convinced me as well.
You felt it?
I felt it.
This was such good opening prep, though, by Hikaru. He's such a promising position. He's still up by 13 minutes on the clock, and you're white. Oh, surely you go for it. But
the options for Hikaru would be, retreating the knight, threatening queen takes f7. Still, Arjun has that problem with his king, what to do about it. But we've got to study Hikaru's body language.
Yeah, the more he shakes his head, the more I feel, yes, he realizes there's fight. And maybe somewhere he also knows that his position is slightly more promising than black's position. But then again, it's that risk factor, right? You're thinking about those rating points. You're thinking about the candidates. And you're playing against your biggest rival for that rating spot at the candidates.
I've been here myself as well, like, especially in recent times, now that I play a bit less, Hikaru doesn't play so much classical, you kind of start looking for excuses to force the draw. You start kind of looking up at the other games. Hikaru will be like, I think the others will end in Armageddon, so I'll go to Armageddon. I'll still have a chance on the last day. You start looking for reasons to kind of take an easier route, take the safety first approach. I think he really has to push himself, force himself to play on for the win. Because a draw ultimately isn't a bad result. He'll still be in the positive when it comes to rating. He's still quite a bit higher than Arjun. Second half of the year, as long as he maintains his rating, Hikaru, he'll be there. He'll be in the candidates. So, big moment. It's a psychological thing more than chess here in this position.
And maybe also telling was this opening strategy that he had against Gukesh, right? He chose this very solid line and in fact was happy to take it to Armageddon, according to his own confession in the confessional, had Gukesh played precisely the opening. I mean, he really did not get much. Gukesh sort of gave him that plus, that edge to fight for the win. But Hikaru, again, was that also a sort of a symbol of how important these rating points for him are at this stage? He keeps looking up, and the more time he spends in this move, I think, Ivanka, this goes into Armageddon right here, right now.
Yeah. The more he's delaying, the more he's looking around, the more I think you two are right. We're most likely going to be seeing a repetition. But somehow I sense that Hikaru doesn't quite want it. He's torn.
Well, it's a case of he knows he shouldn't. He knows he should play on objectively because that's his best chance of winning this tournament. That's the best chance of... I mean, he's not risking too much. We talk about how he's slightly better, and he knows he's prepared until like 4 or 5 moves ago, this whole opening. So he knows he's probably a bit better. But taking an easier day, kind of saving some energy for tomorrow. It's his main rating rival, Arjun. He's probably a favorite in the Armageddon. Hikaru, I think all of these things are going to add up to the fact that he doesn't really want to take any risks, doesn't really want to kind of keep the tension.
But
his fans, though, probably want him to play. So it's just weighing up the priorities.
But he is trailing Fabiano by 1 point. Mm-hmm. And in the Armageddon, the max that he can get is 1.5 points.
I think his chat needs to send him all the energy to continue. They want him to play this one on. Arjun will be the happier of the two to take this to Armageddon. Arjun is feeling the pressure in this position. It hasn't been an easy opening, and the clock tells that story. A player who's always up on the clock, Arjun Erigaisi, the one who's always the better prepared, has been on the back foot in this one. And Hikaru is aware of all of that more than any of us. And yet he's sort of fighting himself, not just what's on the board, not just trying to calculate what's ahead, but the fact that he wants to play on, but there's something stopping him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the other way. I think he doesn't want to play on, but he just feels like people might judge him if he...
because he has what is optically a very nice position. The question is all on Arjun. He can simply retreat the knight, block this rook exchange, threaten queen takes f7, and I agree with you, David, it does look like he's finding all the reasons why he should accept the draw, even though he, because you do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, let me rephrase that. I think a part of him knows the right thing to do is to play on. And any other situation, you take the candidates out of the equation, Hikaru plays. He plays this position till the end. But then there's this other logical, sort of a bigger side saying that I can just bail out from here. I have great results in the Armageddon. I feel I'm the stronger one. And maybe that's my better chance. You almost also start convincing yourself that the position isn't as good, perhaps. It's not that clear. The path isn't clear. Black can go castle, get that rook to b8. Is it really as simple as it might appear? And he keeps looking up.
He's looking at the Magnus Carlsen against Fabiano game. If that one ends in a draw in classical, then Hikaru still has a chance going into the final day. But he knows that if Magnus or Fabiano win, and this goes to Armageddon, if he bails out with a draw now, he's got minimal chances. And shaking his head. There's no reason to shake his head. If this was rapid, or if this was an unrated game, he would play on in a heartbeat. Like, day one, he sat here in the studio with us. I asked him, what would a good tournament be? How would you define a good tournament? He said, not losing any classical rating points. He didn't say winning the tournament. I think that's his number one priority.
Yeah, but you do see Hikaru there grappling with himself. He's trying to find the excuses why he wants to take the draw, even though the position actually is better for him. So it is understandable when he's looking at the bigger picture, but for the chess, I'm hoping that he rejects this draw offer, doesn't repeat moves, and instead just retreats the knight to d2 just to block this exchange and let the game continue.
Or maybe even find an alternative path. After putting the rook to e1, he's about to take a decision. Was he reaching out? I think he's reaching out for the rook.
He is reaching for the rook.
And that is a repetition, but only for the second time. I think Arjun will come back to the board. He will blitz out the move rook to b6. He will not give Hikaru time to second guess his decisions. He'll put the pressure on the clock there. And then it will be the big moment. I think Jovanka, there, Hikaru still has the possibility to change the dynamics. He can choose a different move.
It's all in Hikaru's hands. He is certainly controlling the nature of the game. It's up to him whether the position is repeated 3 times, and there we're looking at the empty chairs. It started off with a bang, very sharp, but in the end, we will see. And this game is incredibly important to the standings. It is between Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana. Let's have a look at their game, because that seems to be impacting Hikaru's decision.
And if Hikaru sees what's just been happening between Magnus and Fabi here, he might be more tempted to play on, because just the last few moves alone have gone potentially in Magnus's favour, although still Fabiano rock solid here. He's sacrificed a pawn. Magnus, we saw the blue arrow, that shows the computer's best move by a distance. It was the only real move, the most logical move to trade a set of knights. But we have to go back and retrace our steps, because we last left it quite a while ago with white playing the move b4, trying to open up the a file. Fabi with black, I think happy here to trade pieces.
We have to go.
We have to
we have to
That's
catch
a
the
repetition.
handshake. There is a repetition happening between Hikaru and Arjun.
Hikaru is so much better. Why would he take the draw?
Bro needs to remember he's Hikaru. And we see a 3-4 repetition. The players are checking their score sheet. Arjun saying that he's going to play this move for the 3rd time, slide the rook over.
That is the correct procedure.
It's already been 3 times, interestingly. Hikaru didn't claim himself, but here we go.
But he's ready. He signs it off. He doesn't complain. Hikaru's ready to take this to Armageddon. Arjun relieved.
It was a big escape for Arjun there as he found himself on the back foot. But in the end, Hikaru satisfied with the draw, looking at the bigger picture in terms of rating and his route to getting into the candidates. But we see a smile there from Hikaru. Well, the action resumes in 20 minutes for both of these players as they analyse.
Yeah, just to mention, the move that Arjun played 3 times to kind of repeat the position was a big mistake. According to the computer, Hikaru with a significant advantage if he had the will to play on. But ultimately, it was psychology, it was external factors, it felt like, that influenced Hikaru's decision. And yeah, let's go back to this game because, okay, this isn't the live position. I'll fast forward. This is the live position. But just to break it down, let's go back. We were talking about the move b4, opening the a file. Here we saw a trade. after a pawn disappeared, traded one set of rooks, and Magnus now, rather than trading, actually kept one set of rooks on the board, rook c1, backing up his protected pawn here. This needs to be guarded, the advance of this pawn. The rook slid across to c8. Magnus sliding with his queen this time. Black a pawn up, but this pawn doomed any moment now. We saw the pawn drop. Some maneuvering as Magnus decided to replace the queen instead of blockading with the queen with a knight. That harks back to something we talked about in the Gukesh game. Queens are not the best blockaders, knights are. So very instructive, I'm just going to say, this maneuver, queen back to b2 and knight to b4 instead. Remember that one, everyone at home. Knight to e5 came. f4, very risky from Magnus opening up his own king, but trying to get this black knight out of the center. This has been met by a pawn sacrifice from Fabiano. Knight to c4, captured, and Magnus, will he trade knight for bishop first before taking this pawn? That, I think, is the only big decision. But ultimately, he can take a pawn and will be a little bit of material up. Maybe some chances for the world number one.
Yeah, and interesting pawn sacrifice there from Fabiano. So what is his compensation after white were to go rook takes c4? Is it just to do with piece activity?
White's king is going to be open. As long as queens are on the board, there's always going to be tricks against the white king.
The one difference that you want to calculate here is that if you immediately pick up that pawn, black could have the option to go multiple pins, right? You've got the option to go queen b7, pinning the knight on b4 via the file, or you could slide up your rook to a4, pinning it laterally as well. You could do that on the next move as well. So you have to be really careful. e4 slightly weak, c5 slightly weak, and the activity against the white king on the A line. Another plan, queen a7, rook a1 check, knight g4 check, and you can see the ideas of proper initiative against the white king. I would feel a lot safer getting that knight and bishop off the board before grabbing on c4. And to me, then it would be a bigger question, right? Because anytime the black queen moves away, that c-pawn is going to roll up the board.
Walk forward, and Magnus does indeed trade off that bishop. Didn't want to get pinned, so good spot from Tanya there. I think good practical try as well. Just far less risky. You don't need to risk much for Magnus. And okay, this is going to be a fascinating end to the tournament. Especially if this becomes a draw, Magnus might need to win the Armageddon, and then they'll be tied going into the last day.
I think Fabi would be very relieved to take this into Armageddon against Magnus with the white pieces, you know, just given everything that... Magnus with the white pieces, I mean. Given everything that happened in round 8, dealing with those emotions, you know, a heartbreaking loss, which would have pretty much put one hand on the trophy. Like, he was going to pull away from the tournament, and now he has to pull himself together playing against Magnus Carlsen in this one. Never an easy task. And where is he finding compensation? All these ideas that we spoke about, a game for 2 results, I think draw would be the dream for black here. Can we just go deeper into what really happens and where Fabi thinks his chances are here, Yovi?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have to explore this because at first sight, after rook takes pawn, where is the compensation? After all, the queen and the black rook are not able to coordinate in a proper way. So David pointed the white king on g1. So the first move that comes to my mind is to go knight to g4, threaten knight to e3, and you can, okay, you see there was a big mistake, probably because of e5, and already I made a blunder.
But, I mean, that idea is definitely in the air, and, I mean, Jovanka, you could start with, like, I don't know, block the diagonal if
yeah,
white
okay,
ever
let's try this one, because somehow or other black has to generate something. So knight to g4.
That's the second pawn you've given up for activity.
I mean, I didn't really want to work out what happens after queen takes pawn, which I don't really see an answer to. But just to make the point, black knight is coming. This is scary for white.
Can we make this idea of knight g4 that Yovi wants without giving up more material? Because I think that's sort of then just a very thin line that you're walking on.
Yeah, but the problem is that if you start dealing with this whole idea of going e5, then white has time to go h3, king h2, and the white king is safe.
Let's put pressure on the c5 pawn. Let's go rook a5. I'm hitting the pawn. I don't know if you can go queen b6, because then rook a1, knight g4 at least starts looking a little scary.
Yeah, knight g4 check. Oh, the bar shoots
all the way down.
All the way down.
Yeah, knight takes pawn at least. At least we have a draw.
Yeah. Is there more for black?
It definitely is.
I just want to know how this is winning. Knight takes pawn.
Okay, let's find it.
Oh, it is winning. Knight takes pawn. And I guess the white king doesn't have too many places to hide. Oh, apparently not that one. Maybe the black queen kind of keeps herself on the board somehow and comes in later with some checkmating ideas. Okay, this has definitely gone wrong for white with the king out in the open. So maybe this one to defend the pawn. Just I want to not allow you to check me in the corner.
And here is where I wanted to make work the idea we were earlier talking about, either via the a8 or the a6 square. I just want to line up my queen and rook.
But now you still have the h3. Because White's big problem,
horrible.
right, is where to hide the king. So if you go h3, king h2,
completely safe.
safest houses, yeah.
It's a tempo game. White just needs one move.
Black just doesn't have time then.
Interesting. This is going through Magnus's mind. I don't think we'll see anything other than rook takes pawn. Maybe we could see the white queen come to the center, just try and control things, and similar to what we were discussing, the lines you were talking about there, Tanya. But Magnus just covering all bases, double checking.
David, I've got one more try on that. Can we give it a go?
Let's go.
So rook takes pawn, rook a5, and the only reason we're looking at this is because there's a big chance this will happen, right? Magnus will want to win the pawn back, and for Fabi, he has to find his attack against the white king. Queen d4 was your move. Can black here go queen to b5? Oh, so hard.
H3?
h3.
I wanted to go queen b1, rook a1.
Oh no, whoops.
And try to get...
And I think you're successful there, right?
But then I realized there's a queen on d4 and there's no queen g1 check anyway.
Covering this one, so need a new queen. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, one isn't enough.
But why does h3 a mistake here?
And it's such a natural move.
Maybe you go through the second rank. How about a check?
Okay.
King moves and the rook comes to a2.
Queen f1 is what you want.
So like if c6, whoops. Queen
Oh.
f1.
Rook takes pawn on the board. Fabi, is he ready with his response or will he take some time here? I think this is a thinking moment for black.
It's definitely a
Or not.
critical one.
Ooh, whoa, Fabi plays rook c8. That shows that he's not actually too ambitious. He just wants to knuckle down and defend. He doesn't think he can win the pawn back immediately. That is panic from Fabi. Maybe because of the clock, he's down quite a bit of time there, but rook c8 is the type of move you play when you don't see anything, you don't really believe in your position.
Interesting developments there, because we were just investigating activity like rook a5, knight, not knight to g4 immediately, but e5, giving up everything for activity, get that compensation. But just to sit there and say, you shall not pass, well, now Magnus will be feeling incredibly happy because, like we said, White just needed one move to get the king to safety. h3, king h2. Well, Magnus now has the advantage.
It's a golden opportunity for the world number one, for Magnus Carlsen. Yeah, Fabi's last move, he kind of came to the board, made it, and left immediately, right? He's not happy at all, Fabiano. He believes that things have gone seriously wrong.
Right. There still has to be some care taken because I'm just thinking Fabi's maybe lining up knight to d7, followed by knight takes, or rook takes c5. So trying to get queen a6 on the board and some kind of pressure against c5, but if it's not working, it's just worse.
Yeah, and the problem is, anytime the black knight moves, white will play the move e5, and the white bishop will suddenly start cutting across the board, supporting the white pawn on c6.
And the reason you want to wait for the knight move is to not allow black that central hold on d5. So right now, e5 wouldn't be the move of choice. Knight d5 would be a strong response. Just such a passive approach by Fabi. You had to put the rook on c8 from an open line. You could attack that same weakness laterally with even more power, because with the queen in front, it's also not an ideal way to get to the pawn.
We said it moments ago, the queens are the worst blockaders, right? So the queen, eyed up by the bishop as well, will have to move at some point. I'm just really shocked that Fabi made that move so quickly. I think playing rook c8 after 5 minutes, thought, if you don't see anything else, fair enough. But to play that immediately, I don't know, maybe it's some confidence thing there. Or maybe it's just a practical thing because of the clock situation, but looks slightly odd. Magnus has the advantage, extra pawn.
And the weight of this game is just so incredibly high for the whole tournament. I mean, it's been an absolute roller coaster of emotions. Every single round a turnaround, but it actually comes down to this game between these two players.
Yeah, completely a roller coaster of a tournament. I completely agree with you. And if Magnus wins this, well, he will pick up 3 points and be in a pole position. And let's head over, and I'm just looking at the bottom right. That's gone crazy. And Vaishali, remember, she's in a must-win situation if she wants to keep her tournament hopes alive. For Sarah, she's just playing the role of spoiler. She can just simply relax and play good chess. Now, there were a few white pawns in the middle when he left it, and they've promptly disappeared. So maybe we can quickly break down exactly what's happened. King f1 being played.
I'm just going to count quickly. Wait, black has 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns on the queen side. White has 1. That's a 3-pawn advantage. And white has 4 versus 3 on the other side, but 2 of those pawns are doubled. So 2 pawns up for Sara Kardem. And yeah, the whole white queen side has been obliterated. In the meantime, quick backtrack as requested here. We last saw it with the pawn attacking the white knight. We were expecting the knight to jump back towards the center, the most natural move in the position. Instead, Vaishali went a different direction. She went all the way home. Knight coming back to g1, maybe hoping to redeploy it on e2. But here, Sara was able to grab a pawn, as we predicted, first trading knight for bishop, and then capturing in the center. So clear extra pawn for black. We were mostly discussing the move queen to c6 check, trying to cause some disarray in black's camp. Instead, rogue arrow yet again. Instead, knight f5, given a question mark by Vaishali, this knight was quickly chopped off. Bishop takes, and the black knight in the center looks super strong now, it's got to be said. How she won a second pawn was also impressive here from Sara Kardem. After knight to e2, bishop takes b2, double exclamation mark. It's a sacrifice that cannot be accepted. Queen takes b2 would lure the white queen onto a vulnerable square, a royal fork here. And instead, rook to d1 was played to cover that square, covering the d3 point, no checks. But the bishop saves itself, only safe move to bring it round. And here, the knight comes forward. I love Sara's move, c6, getting ready to blunt the white bishop a bit later. And Vaishali's just moved her king. So not castling, she wants to keep her rook on the h-file, but lack of connection here. Do we feel she has enough in practical terms?
Well, she's down 2 pawns, but it does feel that black still has some work to do. And as long as the king is in the center, and again, the question of king safety, right? We brought this on at the start of the show. It gives white hope. I think this last move, king f1, isn't just about bringing the king to a square where it can't be checked on with the bishop or the queen, but also vacates a square for the rook to slide onto, creating some threats on that e-line, especially if the move d5 was to come, right? It also comes with ideas of potential sacrifices on e5, the queen eyeing the c6 square. So Vaishali is fighting. She's trying to set up these tricks and traps in the position. Yes, Sara's got 2 pawns, but to me, from a human evaluation perspective, it's still sort of game on, with white having chances for a potential attack against the king.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like the danger won't be over for Sara until the game is over, because the black king is super unsafe, and she just has to hold firm. And that's the thing here. I don't think she should be rash here with making moves like c5, d5. d5 would weaken the knight on e5. c5 would give up a big square in the center. I think she just has to kind of start repairing her pieces, making sure that everything is protected. Like bishop goes to c5, the rook will go to b7. There's some kind of overprotection going on of the f7 pawn. And then, you know, reacting to whatever Vaishali does.
Whatever I know of Vaishali, having spent quite a bit of time with her, you know, in her mind, how she evaluates this position is as just a really interesting position. It's something where long-term black is completely winning. You're down 2 pawns. You know, Vaishali can't afford piece trades going into any endgames. But Vaishali also feels there's fire. She isn't evaluating this as worse for her. Again, this is just my reading, having spent some time with her, where she feels she needs to just be very energetic with her play. She needs to keep putting pressure, keep putting threats on her opponent. So king f1 does seem like a little cagey move, but I think it is sort of the start and the setup of those threats, especially considering that she didn't castle. She kept her rook on h1, tying down the black rook on h8 as well, eyeing that h6 pawn. So I would say that Vaishali was, but still practical chances for white.
Yeah, it really reminds me of her Armageddon win against Anna Muzychuk when she was like 2 pawns down for most of the game, didn't really have that much counterplay, but the opponent's king was always weak. And eventually she actually delivered checkmate. So yeah, this one is going to be one to watch. I have a feeling it's going to come down to the time scramble and something's going to happen. Whether Sara converts her 2-pawn advantage or whether the white king and the safety there versus the black king ends up being the decisive factor, who knows?
Look at the top center board. I mean, that's going to be fun, and we'll keep an eye on how Vaishali creates her chances or do the 2 extra pawns for Sara, get the job done. But Magnus with a very direct move there. You know, we left it last slightly critical of Fabi's choice of placing the rook on a slightly passive square. The only move by Fabi, queen to a6. What's happening here? And can we just backtrack, David? Let's do an action replay as well.
Yeah, just 2 moves and how things change. We were last here after Fabiano played the move rook to c8, questionable. He had much more active kind of choices, ventures with that rook. Magnus said, okay, you took a passive decision, I'm going to go super active. Rather than playing h3 and king h2 there, which I think, yeah, he would have done in a blitz game without any doubt. Magnus has calculated something. He's played e5, forcing move, hitting the queen, hitting the knight had to block, and now f5, undermining the e6 pawn. Pawn takes pawn, we should mention, will lose pretty much on the spot to something like queen to d4. Yes, black can defend, but this knight is pinned forever, and I don't think you can move a piece for the rest of this game as black. So taking this pawn looks wrong, but queen to a6 was the blue arrow move. That shows the computer thinks it's far and away the best. Is he going to switch angles soon, Magnus? Is he going to put a pawn on f6 and go for checkmate against the black king?
Also, is Fabi, he's calculating right now, but queen a6, is Magnus's plan just to go bishop takes knight and just remove the possibility of a knight coming back to e3?
And then just to retreat
Yeah,
the rook.
just retreat the rook, and I'm thinking queen to d4, cement your extra 1 pawn. Okay, he moves, queen a6, finds it. Okay, we're now going to see what Magnus has up his sleeve. It was a very forcing move, f5.
All these lines that you were discussing, right? Yovi taking on d5 or the rook slides over. I will highlight a counter resource that Fabi set up with this last move. That queen on a6 could land potentially on a d3 square, which would be very strong given how weak White's king has become. So I don't know if we can just have that. Bishop takes knight, pawn takes bishop, and then let's say you come back. You pointed out queen d4, Magnus Carlsen completely in control, right? But if black can use this opportunity, come in with the queen, f5 hanging, queen e3 a big check. Let me point out that d5 pawn is no weakness right now. It starts marching up and black's got sufficient counterplay.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Fabi has to play for the drama, and we do have Armageddon drama coming up. So let's hear from Hikaru and hear what his thoughts are.
Hey, Hikaru, was that Arjun finding some good defensive resources there?
It's very hard to judge. I mean, we discussed a little bit after the game. I mean, it's a shame that we had this Armageddon, because otherwise I think we could have discussed that for half an hour. The first thing is when he played bishop d7, as I mentioned in the confessional booth, I wasn't sure if I could take h7 because I looked at lines, and I mean, I think by transmission I'd seen h6, g4, bishop d7 like in the game, but then I spent 20 minutes and I trusted him, which I mean, he said there was a move queen a5, so probably it was fine. And then somehow I thought I was better, but I was a little bit worried towards the end as to whether I could really do a whole lot and whether the bishops wouldn't become better in the long run. I mean, we discussed the line at the end with rook b6, knight d2, like rook f8, bishop d3, and I thought king c8, knight c4, rook b8. And I mean, again, it looks very funny in terms of black's placement, but the bishops are actually very good on like d7 and e7. I have this weak pawn on h4. There's no attack. The center's closed. I mean, I didn't know, so it was very difficult. And I mean, also, I was looking at the other games, of course, and it's no secret that I've had a good tournament, and everybody else has been like doing okay, but nobody's really come close in rating. So it looked to me like Magnus was much better, and then I just thought, I mean, what's the point of going insane? You know, it was quite difficult to make the decision to take the draw, but I just thought it'd be practical.
Yes, do you feel like Magnus has a chance in his game against Fabi right now?
Well, he's up a pawn. I mean, if Fabiano has something immediately to save the game, he'll be fine. If he doesn't, he's going to lose. So I think we'll know within the next 5 to 10 minutes what's going to happen. Obviously, I mean, people are probably wondering, like, you know, why does it matter if Magnus wins? What's the big deal? You should be playing for first place in the tournament. But my argument would be that, you know, at the end of the day, the candidates is the goal. I mean, it was not a goal even 3 months ago, but now it is definitely a goal, and it's on my mind. And so I'm basing it off of that, and we'll see if it works out or not.
I really appreciate that honest feedback. Thank you, Hikaru.
Sure, no problem.
Well, there you hear Hikaru saying that the candidates is his goal. Well, he will be playing the Armageddon soon. But before that happens, maybe we can do a quick roundup of our 5 boards in action. And then we're going to dive and just enjoy what Hikaru and Arjun have in store for us. So, David and Tanya, quick verdict.
I just want to say I'm really glad that we will have the beast on the board. Hikaru isn't retiring anytime soon. He's motivated for that spot in the candidate, so that's good news for all of us. And a lot of good action going on, David. What catches your attention? Just do a quick roundup.
Yeah, I'm going to say top left, blue board. In the balance, Gukesh has stabilized somewhat from a position we thought was difficult earlier. Anything could happen there. Magnus still a pawn up against Caruana. Fabi there on the defensive. Ju Wenjun against Anna Muzichuk has exploded. That one, exchange sacrifice from one of the leaders there, Anna Muzichuk in second place. Humpy with an advantage. Sarah Kadem, 2 pawns to the good. It's Armageddon time, though, in the meantime.
It is Armageddon time, and here the players are in action, so let's dive in. Remember, Hikaru starts with 10 minutes on the clock. Arjun, 7 minutes, but Arjun gets the draw odds, and the players do get an extra 1 second after they have completed move 40.
Okay, it's the Spanish opening. It was the Berlin. So it's actually Arjun switching away from the Sicilian, which led him into a difficult position early doors. But the Berlin, anti-Berlin, not allowing any early trades. And interesting tense position, Tanya.
Fun story, it started with bishop c5 before knight f6. If we just quickly backtrack, because that's what caught my attention, and Hikaru paused.
Okay, Hikaru paused. We saw the Spanish early days, and actually not the Berlin. I was confused because we saw a transposition, but bishop c5 first, something Arjun has done lately. And here, instead of any action, Hikaru transposes into quieter waters. But we finally, catching up with the position, see some trades in the center. Pawn to a5. This is transposed back to one of the main lines of this opening, the Berlin defense.
Yeah, quick switch up of move order there by Arjun. So interesting, and Hikaru just coping with that so well, replying quickly with energy. B4, is that the idea that we're going to see with the rook sliding over? That's what he's hinting at, stepping away from any pins on the A line. Meanwhile, Arjun falls back. C6 is where he wants, and that knight at the center on E6.
Mainline stuff, Hikaru playing very quickly. This was very topical, this whole system in the candidates tournament in 2024 and in others. Knight to d8 was a new move to my eyes, but okay, he captures away from the center, not normal. You normally want to capture towards the center with pawns, but here he's opened up his bishop, Hikaru Nakamura. I slightly prefer White's chances here. I really like what he's done, Hikaru, but still very tense, of course, and Arjun super solid.
Arjun definitely very solid, and Hikaru actually hasn't been so successful in the Armageddons, just beating Magnus. The rest, he lost. So Hikaru, he's one of the best blitz players in the world. He will have something to prove.
He had this skid, right, of 5 losses in a row after getting his first 2 wins in. It's still a complex position. Arjun does reroute his knight to e6, now eyeing that f4 square to jump over to next. Also watch out for any knight f6 moves and f5 striking over. But Hikaru keeps that pressure on the clock, keeps developing his pieces, preempting that f5 break by placing the rook against the black queen.
Wow, Arjun trading off his bishop, giving White the bishop pair. Pawn sacrifice from Hikaru Nakamura. He's dropping the e4 pawn, but he might win the e5 pawn back. And I don't understand that bishop for knight trade. Really shocked, I must admit. Anti-positional from Arjun. He's playing just for a dark squared strategy, but now long-term, White is doing great. The knight kicked back. The last few moves have gone massively in Hikaru's favor.
And Hikaru still keeps a 3-minute advantage that he started with, but of course he has to win. Arjun, a draw is what he needs. He places the rook on the open line. I think you ignore the question mark simply because it's such a natural move in the position. Arjun also trying to get the bishop to b6, which has been stopped, so no bishop activity for black.
So many easy moves at Hikaru's disposal. This is a Hikaru position. He could just slowly improve his rooks, improve his bishops, defend his king side, and only later will White decide how to break forward on that left flank on the queen side. What do we think? Arjun can't be happy here. He's so passive with his pieces.
He's tangled up with his pieces, and I love the fact that the g3 pawn just dominates the circuit of the knight on g6. And there goes Hikaru, slowly improving the placing of his queen. It's going to be all about space and controlling the lines. And that's why Arjun breaks out with b6.
Look at the incredible speed with which Hikaru is playing. I mean, this is Hikaru back to his form, you know. He took it to Armageddon, and he's really putting on a show. Keeps the pressure on the clock, keeps the pressure on the queen side, and now some decisions to be made as pawn takes pawn is being threatened. The rook lined up against the white queen.
And the white queen's about to move. Hikaru chooses to retreat her. And the problem for black is what to do with the knights. The knights have no active jumping points. no great circuits to find themselves on. You're facing the bishop pair. White's light squared bishop is poised. It's going to be like an archer once it comes forward and starts targeting the black king. Arjun's just moving his queen back where it came from. He's just waiting. He's asking Hikaru, how are you going to break through? And it is difficult. It's not easy to find a winning plan for White, but it's definite that he has an advantage for now.
Yeah, the thing is though, with his lead in time, he can just simply carry on making those moves. Doesn't need to determine the position just yet. And Arjun just really very low on the clock, just over 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So I like Hikaru's strategy of just dragging the game for as long as possible.
Incredible control by Hikaru in the game so far, keeping the upper hand, brings the queen forward, defends his own pawn, attacks c6 as well.
It's just beautiful for White. The problem is, if Arjun ever breaks the tension and trades pawns, Hikaru has an outside pass pawn that will promote on the a8 square. What does he have? A light squared bishop that will control that square. Arjun now trying to initiate some chaos, asking Hikaru, do you want to take my pawn? You will drop b4, or do you want to keep control? Do you step back? Oh, big moment.
Big moment for Hikaru. He needs to figure out how strong and powerful that a5 pawn will be after that sequence of trade. Does he trade or does he keep things under control?
Yeah, and I just want to point out there's a huge moment in the game between Gukesh and Wei Yi. Wei Yi just blundered with knight takes d2, allowing this bishop takes h7. It's big, big news, big development happening there, so keep an eye on that game.
Wow, that's just a one-move blunder on that left board, the blue board. If the black king takes the bishop, then the white queen goes to h5. That's the left board, the blue board, with a check. The white queen's under attack right now. She'll save herself, and the black queen will be captured next move. Gukesh, huge chance. Wei Yi, huge blunder.
Unbelievable, and that too with 25 minutes on the clock, falling for this tactics. Gukesh on the front foot in this one. Hikaru did go for the trades, and there we have it. He's pushed that a pawn. Now all of Arjun's focus is in stopping that pawn. Attacks the queen, moves away, threatening rook takes pawn, and the knight hanging.
Yeah, the knight hanging, don't forget about that one. And there we see Hikaru shaking, and he grabs the pawn on b5. The knight on f3 is simply irrelevant. It's going to be all about the a pawn.
Tactics, right? Because rook takes rook, queen takes rook, queen b8, check in the end if you get greedy with that knight. Winning the rook on a7.
White queen ends up on a great square. Hikaru blundered that, by the way. He missed that his knight was attacked initially, but he took like 10 seconds to compose himself, shook his head, and then he's like, wait, I'm still winning a pawn. That's the luck in chess. When you play good moves, tactics tend to work in your favor. And Hikaru, indirectly as well, defending his a-pawn with his bishop. That pawn is safe. He's going to be a clear pawn up, should win this game now.
And look at that. He still has a 3-minute advantage on the clock. Exactly what he started with, no increment. This has been a brilliant Armageddon by Hikaru Nakamura. Arjun wants to keep as many pieces on the board.
He just has to hold tight. That's the only thing he can do. Blockade the a-pawn and just hope that he survives. And Hikaru just keeps on building the position. The pawn on a6. It's a beautiful piece.
And Ivanka, you pointed out the problem in Arjun's position, right? It's the two knights. Place one of them on e6, jumping onto d4. You're looking at counterplay, but those have been just completely out of the game for the entirety of it.
Yep, and that's the problem, right? Those two knights are not playing, but Arjun, he is a trickster at heart, so do not write him off. He came back from the brink in their last Armageddon game.
Also against Fabi.
Yeah, so resourceful. Arjun never gives up hope, always believes. He now retreats his knight, trying to get it onto a better circuit here. But Hikaru, all he needs to do at some point is to unpin his bishop, whether he does that maybe with his rook, by moving his king up. Once that bishop joins the party on the c4 square, Hikaru might even start changing his focus, switch it towards an attack on the black king while black's rooks are passive.
Tempting options for Hikaru. Does he unpin? I'm also thinking about rook b7 here. You want to try to trade one set of rooks, one of the defenders, but Hikaru does go for your idea. He's just made the move rook b6, so not easy to just place it to another square. He wants that bishop into the game. He wants bishop on c4.
He's going to bring it forward. He's also unpinned his bishop, so now the white rook doesn't have to tie itself down defending this pawn anymore. He can go for that rook b7 type of idea.
I completely missed that you could take the pawn on a6 if you went on that, the last move.
Probably still worked. The white queen, white rook would have lined up on the 7th rank, devastating. So I think it was winning as well, Tanya, your move there. So knight e6 instead by Arjun now, and so many natural moves for Hikaru. Bring the bishop out, your move rook b7, break the blockade. Hikaru has so much time, nearly 5 minutes to mull over what to do. He shifts his queen over. He's getting greedy. Second pawn in his eye line.
Rook b8 check in his eye line as well, forcing that trade.
Yeah, rook to b8 would be absolutely devastating. And this bishop on f1, silent assassin, just holding back the black rooks. And Arjun, his clock is ticking down, and it becomes more and more difficult for him to find moves to stay alive in this position.
What's he going to do? He can't move his rooks. He moves his king. His knights were a bit stuck as well. But now Hikaru, if he wants, can pocket the second pawn, can go for some rook trades. Everything looks so strong for Hikaru. Maybe that's the one downside when you have that many good moves. Sometimes you take a bit of time to decide, but no, he plays so quickly, Hikaru. He's been so impressive this whole game.
Power performance by him, right? Like on the clock, on the board, just every single move. I'd love to check the accuracy of this game by Hikaru as well. I mean, it just looks flawless to me so far.
96%. We see just below the camera there of the players at the bottom of your screens, everyone at home. 96% accuracy by Hikaru in an Armageddon game. Not easy to achieve that.
Yeah, it's just a powerful performance there from Hikaru, almost like from start to finish. But his queen is on breeze. There we see Hikaru pocket another pawn. Arjun, it's becoming more and more difficult for him to stay alive. You can't trade off queens. You can't allow a white knight to deliver a critical blow. Okay, he swaps off, but the knight is now coming to c6. And that's why we see a trade of rooks. And that's such a big pawn there on b7.
That is, you can't even call it a pawn, right? You defend it, and then your idea of knight c6 or knight d7, getting rid of that rook on b8. Hikaru does pause. I would think bishop a6 would be blitzed out in like half a second by him. But something stops him, because bishop a6, knight c6 looks completely winning to me.
Now, I guess the black knight will come to attack that bishop, and when it takes that bishop, it will defend its rook. So he's just doing some last-minute calculations. I think it's winning. I mean, I'd be boring and just take an f7 pawn, 2 pawns up, but Hikaru looking for the direct kill, and it probably does exist, starting with the move bishop to a6.
Yeah, you can do that. You can also go rook to b3, and then he goes bishop to a6. He's worked it all out.
He's going to pick up that rook. He'll give 2 pieces, but then the white rook will slide over, start attacking that knight, that lone defender via the c3 square, rook c8 coming in. Hikaru has this, and he's trying to defend. Arjun is with knight to d7. It's time to bring the king and the pawns into the party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the pawns just simply can come marching, and Hikaru is reaching for that e5. It can be backed up with f4, f5, so Arjun has to race in with the king.
Could also go g4, stopping king f5, f4. I like that move a lot. And Hikaru's got so much time to work this out.
Yeah, g4, no f5 entry point for the black king.
Black is totally frozen, totally stuck. The 2 black knights are cancelled out by the white pawn, white rook. The whole queen side, that left half of the board, irrelevant. White essentially has 4 pawns versus 3 pawns on the other side, and Arjun resigns.
Well, we see Hikaru Nakamura put on a very smooth performance, nets 1.5 points, very important to the standings. Well, somehow or other, Hikaru Nakamura didn't create any drama whatsoever. It was just one-way traffic. It was pure power there from the number 2 in the world. He leaves the board with a smile. And I gotta take it immediately to our board viewer, because so much drama. Take a look at the evaluation bar. Some radical things happened. Gukesh, Wei Yi. Also, Lei Tingjie has turned things around against Humpy Koneru. Big blunder there. And also, to the left, Ju Wenjun, big trouble against Anna Mizichuk. Guys, I'm going to leave it to you. Take us to any of those.
David?
Just this moment as well, Vaishali blunders against Sarah Kardem as well. I'm going to start with the top left, because there's a key moment. Gukesh only has 1 winning move. He's surely going to find it. He has capitalized on a big slip from Wei Yi. You have to give a check with your pawn, first of all. There's a queen trade offered. Black is a piece up temporarily. We'll backtrack in a moment after this critical move has been found, played, and show the tactics, unless Gukesh settles in for a long think. I thought he had no time. He has got 37 minutes. He's going to find this pawn to g6, caging the black king. Let's go back and show that dramatic blunder. We won't go the whole way, but here, level position. We talked about this position earlier. Black is a very strong knight, and just needs to keep it there. Just any move, even just waiting with the king, putting it in the corner. And here, Gukesh has improved things a lot. 2 bishops, maybe small advantage, but Wei Yi is fine. Knight takes bishop, however. Huge blunder, huge blind spot, because yes, you're attacking the white queen, but white doesn't have to recapture automatically this black knight. You can give away the bishop with a check. They always say calculate checks, captures, and threats first in that order. Oh, he finds the winning move for Gukesh in the game position. Just to mention, king takes here, there would have been a check. Next move, the queen would have fallen. This would have been over. So the black king had to dodge. Rook takes knight now, and this is how we got here. Gukesh has just found g6, blue arrow move. The king goes back. The blue arrow appears again, live position.
Oh, you have to play queen to b3, setting up discovered checks along that diagonal.
Not to mention the bishop on c5 is hanging as well. And this was so key. I think Gukesh finds this, right? And the difference between playing g6 before you trade on e2 is that it forces the black king to g8. You don't have the move king to h6 because you get checkmated on the h5 square. So Wei Yi did not have an option. He didn't even think for a second. The only square was g8, and now Gukesh has to be feeling it, right? Your pawn's on g6, you want the queens on the board. There has to be something. Your senses are tingling here.
Yeah, it's a threat. Checks, captures, and threats. He found that check earlier to kind of just throw Wei Yi's coordination off. Then there were some captures, now it's the threat. And the white king is safe, we should mention. No real kind of scary ideas against the white king, so queen b3.
And I think the point is, David, that after queen e6, which blocks any of the threats, let's point out that Wei Yi right now has that extra bishop. Even if you go for the endgame by capturing the bishop on c5, at the end of those lines, it's actually Gukesh who ends up with an extra pawn. The g6 pawn is a big one, just making sure the black king stays on that bank rank spank for the rest of the game. And that's a happy ending for white.
2 extra pawns.
Two extra pawns.
3 versus 2 on the king side, 3 versus 2 on the queen side.
Sorry.
Nothing. Nothing.
What are you chuckling about, you man?
I have no idea.
I will tell
What's
you
so
during the
funny?
break. It was a good one, Tanya. That was all I can say.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, drama here.
Drama there,
Lots to
drama in the
enjoy.
studio.
I hope you're all at home with your popcorn because this is getting feisty. Queen b3, the winning move for Gukesh. In the meantime, let's wrap up. Let's sum up some of the drama on the other boards because it looks like the leader in the women's has just blundered a piece. Humpy is down a whole knight right now.
Yeah, we've got to do an action replay to find out how that happened because it did look like Humpy was in full control when we last left it. She was doing everything she needed to do. And then suddenly, one big slip up and that's it. She's lost.
Improve your pieces, develop everything, complete that development, and then go for the action. But she rushed. She jumped in with her knight. And after the white bishop dropped back, now did she castle. And, okay, bishop to e6. Rook takes here, rook takes d8 with a check. This apparently is a mistake, but Humpy now, in a moment, blundered. First keeping the queens on the board, and now, instead of playing bishop to b4 only move, she played bishop c5, missing the move queen a4, trading queens. The knight is hanging as well. If you take queens off the board, double attack. Bishop hanging, knight hanging, she's simply going to be a piece down. I think hallucination there, and to catch up with the current position, the queen had to move out the way, the knight dropped. She just grabs one pawn, but it's not enough. She's given a check, but now the white king will move. And yeah, I don't think black has enough here, simply. Everything defends each other. The white knights control the bishop, which controls the other knight. And here we see the king move. Humpy's grabbed a pawn back. It's now one pawn for the piece. Lei Tingjie, look at the bar shooting up, though.
Moving forward around on the Wenjun board, right? Which is so incredibly important for our leaderboard.
Yeah, incredibly important game between the two players in second place. That has seen a whole lot of movement as well. So we have to do
It was very interesting.
replay and find out what exactly happened because it was very interesting. The exchange. Anna Mazajuk had just now sacrificed the exchange. She'd gotten great position. Now looking like she's in business mode.
Yeah, we'll backtrack to the moment we left it, or at least a moment we discussed. We talked earlier about the connect 4 that white has, but Ju Wenjun maybe rushing a bit here. She played her pawn forward to e4, relinquishing the d4 square. We saw f4, and yeah, I'm just going to say, amazing move, amazing judgment, positional understanding from Anna Mazajuk. Instead of taking back this pawn with her own pawn, allowing white to step forward and this knight to survive, she said, in this position, that white knight is so strong, it's worth a black rook. Beautiful sacrifice, positional exchange sacrifice worthy of Tigran Petrosian. Rook takes f4, double exclamation mark. Positional play. And this isn't a winning sacrifice. It's not like a tactic. It's just positional play. It's all about squares. The knight took the rook, and here the black bishop's about to occupy a beautiful square. If white does nothing, by the way, and then this is just positional domination, just to put it on the board. This is what black is playing for, dark squares. Black is a rook for knight down, but this pawn is backward. This bishop on g2 is dead, and black has full dominance. So Ju Wenjun, she tried to play actively e5, the bishop moved, but her big mistake in this position was panicking. She needed to just maintain the status quo, maybe now move her king, but pawn to d4 made the situation a whole lot worse, giving black a very powerful pass pawn, and this is where we are.
Yeah, White's rook's really not powering through, and whereas black has complete control over the position. Okay, threat to the pawn on f4, but that can be nicely defended. Great stuff from Anna there.
And let's point out, right, that Anna is a point behind Humpy. Humpy in big trouble.
Sorry, moused it.
It happened on every online game that I play, because queen f5 is really what the move that you wanted here to defend that f4 pawn, and eventually maybe even push the d pawn one step forward, d3, knight d4 coming in with all kinds of ideas, e5 hanging as well. I mean, this is such a huge game, right? If Anna, with this huge strategic domination that she has, even though she's down in exchange, look at that horrible bishop on g2, not playing at all, beautiful pawns for black, all the weaknesses to target the rooks. That extra exchange is only as powerful as an open line you have, right? Wenjun struggling to find an active square for those rooks. Anna gets this, she leapfrogs the standings, right? Because Humpy, she's on the verge of losing to Lei Tingjie.
Yes, she is. And it's, what does that mean for the standings, right? So Humpy, I don't think Anna has clinched it if she wins. No.
But goes into the last
But she
round
goes with a very comfortable...
Yeah, as the sole leader.
Yeah.
And by a margin.
2 points clear.
Yeah, that's more than an Armageddon win.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Huge moment for Anna Muzychuk.
Absolutely.
Okay, she still has to convert it though, and beating world champions is normally a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Here, she needs to stay calm and just continue improving her pieces, but fantastic positional competition, as we talked about. Pawn to d3 looks good, bishop improvement looks good, looks fantastic for Anna.
All right, so Anna in control. Let's zoom out. Let's bring up our bird's eye view. Gukesh did find the move that we were talking about. Queen to b3 has been played. Wei Yi in big trouble in that. Here we are. How does black continue fighting this one?
I think it was your move from earlier, Tanya. This X-ray is just too scary. Black in big danger here. Maybe just dropping the black queen back and going into that rook and pawn endgame. Yes, 2 pawns down, but it's not over yet. I think that might be the best fighting chance.
And we're seeing, well, Wei Yi finding all of the moves to keep us entertained. Bishop to e3, and I'm very pleased to have with studio Hikaru Nakamura, who just defeated Arjun Erigaisi in the Armageddon. How are you?
I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't play bishop takes h7, because it was a bit of a game of poker at the start where Arjun was moving quickly, and I thought that what he played with bishop d7 was wrong, but you know, taking this pawn, allowing some rook b8, some rook h5, rook a5 stuff, like it's one of those things where if your opponent is actually prepared, you can get in trouble very quickly because you don't know what the objective evaluation is. So like I'm a little bit annoyed that I missed that, but otherwise I'm not super unhappy. I mean, the line that I missed, I mean, the computer shows us something stupid. I think it's at a queen f2. Forward. I think it's takes, h5, bishop c6, bishop e6, bishop f3, and then there's queen a4, which of course I didn't see because I'm not good enough. I'm not stockfish, I guess you could say. But like, I mean, I initially wanted to go for a line like this, but I didn't see this. And it wasn't so clear without this bishop takes e6, and it's very hard to judge what was going on. But then actually, when I played queen f2, I think I was it was very correct that I made the repetition, because as you know, pointed out to me after the game, somewhere around this moment, if Arjun had castled and then you go g5, h5, I mean, maybe black can be better. So I think the margin of error where like I could feel like I was one move away from being worse.
But we could see from the camera that you weren't necessarily in the situation.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, there were many thoughts running through my head. I mean, the first thought is like, you know, nobody's going to like me for saying this, but important. Then it was on my mind. 8 games, not losing rating points, it became a real thought. So that's been on my mind the whole tournament. But also, you know, I sort of have alluded to this. I mean, a lot of people seemingly don't listen to what Magnus says, or don't listen to what I say specifically. They think we just, you know, we apparently just make things up on the fly. We say serious things and just make them up out of thin air. But I mean, even coming into this tournament, I had a feeling that this is most likely the last time I'm going to be playing a classical tournament here. And also, if I don't qualify for the can, it's very likely the last time that I play a top-level game against this sort of caliber of competition. So, like, there were a lot of these thoughts running through my head as well about, like, you know, if this is, like, one of the last times that I play here with white, do I want to actually, like, try and go out in glory and blow up completely, or or just be practical. And I just felt like with what's happening in the other games and the way the rating situation is, ultimately I want to make the candidates one last time. So I mean, it wasn't the moment to go for more.
So you're happy with the decision?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the decision. I mean, I think, again, bishop takes h7, I can be unhappy about. Everything else, I'm not a computer, so I don't think it's really that big of a deal. And overall, I think the luck is evened out. If I look at my tournament, I never should have lost the game to Gukesh that I lost. And I did lose that one. And there was also this game against Arjun I didn't win, which I should have won, of course. So, and then there's a game against Gukesh that I won, which I never should have won in a million years yesterday or 2 days ago. So I feel like everything's evened out, and so I'm pretty pleased overall. And as I also said, I mean, the classical is what matters most to me. Like, I could lose every Armageddon game, and it wouldn't phase me. My mood wouldn't suddenly change. I wouldn't be super unhappy.
I think, Karu, everyone was really happy to hear, especially in chat, that you are feeling motivated about playing in the candidates. And when we had you earlier in the studio, David had asked you what would make a successful Norway Chess tournament for you. What would that mean? So do you think that you feel you've done it and you're inspired to go ahead, and especially with this last round against Wei Yi coming up? How do you see your overall performance with 1 round to go?
Yeah, I think that it will have been a success regardless of tomorrow. Like, even if somehow I lose, I'll still be happy overall. Just because nobody lit it up here, from what I can tell. I mean, Fabiano had moments when he definitely could have had some really good results and put pressure on me for the rating spot. But overall, I mean, everyth's worked out reasonably well. So it's been a success. Based on tomorrow, it could be a great success if I win. If I draw, it's a good success. If I don't, it's a success. It's very simple.
Hikaru, the race for first place isn't over. If Magnus can't kind of grind down Fabi here, then you'll still have a chance at first place tomorrow. So if it does come down to it, risking some rating points or going for tournament glory?
I mean, it's much easier to go for glory in the last round. I mean, the thing is, like, today, if I had gone crazy and lost, I'm still looking at a black game tomorrow. I mean, there's a very realistic chance I could end on 2 losses, and then it's not okay. There's definitely more room for me to go crazy tomorrow if I choose to. But of course, that's going to depend a lot on the Magnus game, I think. Although, as you see from the scoring format, I mean, if Gukesh wins this, I think he might have a chance. Like, I don't even know how it all breaks down, but I think it's been a good tournament. I think everybody's probably enjoyed all the ups and downs that everybody's had.
What's been the big...
I think obviously the Magnus game against Gukesh changed the trajectory of the tournament. I think, and to some degree, I mean, I don't know for sure with Magnus, but I'm not convinced that he necessarily had the exact same thoughts that I have currently about classical chess until he lost that game. I think that really changed his view on quite a few things. So that has to be the moment, just because Gukesh obviously is a world champion, and it was a game that Magnus lost, which you never would expect him to lose. An end game, his bread and butter, winning position. Tournament, and one wrong move, your evening's ruined, life is terrible. And for me, like, when I look at like content creation, it's far less stressful than playing a tournament like this, and the rewards are also better. So it's pretty much a no-brainer for me.
So you mentioned that it was quite stressful at times with chess. So how did you get over all these setbacks?
Well, I think you really have to basically suffer from short-term memory loss in a way when you play chess at the top level, because there's always another game, there's always another day. And I mean, that's also one thing that really surprised me with Magnus in this tournament that was different, is if you look at Magnus historically, I mean, I think in many ways he's been at his best.